All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to open up the meeting to the public, or I should say open this budget workshop hearing, meeting of the Howell Township Mayor and Council. It is 8:35 on Saturday, February the 11th, the first of a series of budget workshops to begin to deliberate on the 2006 municipal budget. Mr. Davis, would you please read the appropriate statement and roll call?
Yes. Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of holding of this special meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of copies of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 24th, 2006, and by the faxing of copies of said notice to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger for publication on January 24th, 2006, and by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 24th, 2006. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of the Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows. Upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, there are to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room to the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. Roll call, Mayor, please. Mr. Malabay?
Here.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Present.
Mr. Tabasco?
We do expect him to be here.
I'll just mark him late for now, then. Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mayor DeBella?
I am here.
4 present, Mayor, and 1 absent/late.
All right, we have our agenda, which I'm going to diligently attempt to keep us toward. Just a recap for everybody's benefit. Mr. Filiaccia will start us off with a recap at 8:45, the director of our senior program, 9 o'clock police, 9:45 land use, 10 o'clock MIS, and 10:30 to 11 on rec. As a house cleaning matter, I do believe we need to cancel the meeting on the 18th.
That is correct, sir.
So we will need to pick an alternate evening, and everyone sort of has commented that the Saturdays are certainly delightful, but there may be an alternate opportunity to do these sessions. So hopefully you can arrange that, Mr. Davis, with the council's schedule.
It is, if you like, the clerk's office could, you don't have to decide today. We'll call around and get some dates from all of you, your availabilities and so forth and so on, and then we'll schedule.
That'd be,
Is that all right?
We should have one
sounds
Tuesday
acceptable. What's that?
night. Tuesday night.
Tuesday night on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
You'd
okay.
be happy to meet?
Enjoy.
I don't know if that'd be a very good idea in my household.
I want you all to have a good time that night.
Right. You could
We'll
decide that.
provide you with a Valentine cake if that makes it easy.
There you go. All right. Obviously, this is an important beginning of a deliberation to determine our fiscal finances for the calendar year. Mr. Filiaccia, we'd ask that you perhaps give us some opening commentary, and it goes without saying that the budget is going to drive the things that we are able to accomplish to a certain degree from a financial perspective, and so we need to make certain we have our financial house in order so that we can achieve and fulfill those goals and ambitions that we have set and will obviously be reestablishing shortly in the goal-setting opportunity we're going to have. So why don't you take us through, Mr. Filiaccia?
All right. The first thing I have is on the dais this morning was a thick, long, white form with a memo attached to it. This is a brand spanking new issued yesterday, the annual financial statement. It was due yesterday, and I have never been late with it. This has been the closest I've been. But it is done, and it's now filed with you, and you certainly can look over this, and if you have any questions, get back to me. I want to highlight a few things. The ratables this year increased $56 million over last year. That's one of the smallest increases that we've had in my 13 years as finance officer here. It compares to that $81 million increase in ratables last year. So we see, and a lot of that has to do with the fact we really didn't have a lot of new commercial this past year, and we're kind of at a lull here where Lowe's and that area is developed, and the rest of Route 9 hasn't started yet because the sewers are just about ready to go online. So we're looking at mostly single-family housing and the growth. So we're probably seeing some of our efforts in controlling some of the single-family housing. However, when it comes down to crunching numbers and putting budget together, the lack of growth is not necessarily that good. You have that much smaller of a tax base in which to spread any increase in costs. So it's good news. It's certainly good news as far as the school goes, and not as many kids going to be in the pipeline in the future years. It's not that good when we start talking about municipal tax rate. We have, for the current fund, we have finished the year in really good shape. Notwithstanding the one-time revenue we used last year, deferred school tax, if I factor that out of the picture, we used $5.188 million, $5,188,000 worth of surplus that was surplus in our books already and wasn't the one-time revenue deferred school tax. We have replaced $5.3 million. So the model we have been using over the years, it has consistently held up. We have replaced the surplus we use. That surplus is available now to offset this coming year's tax rate. So in that respect, we remain in good shape. Of course, we don't have $1.4 million worth of deferred school tax to tap this year. When we start talking about the budget rate and the tax rate towards the end of the meeting or later on, we have about $800,000 available if you so desire to defer school tax.
First you said no, now I said.
There are no over expenditures. We had the 3 emergencies that need to be provided for this year. And all in all, current fund basically is in relatively good shape, especially in relationship to many of the other towns in the state. And we're holding our own, and that's saying something at this point in time. Our tax collection rate dipped ever so slightly. Get the right figure here. Our collection rate decreased from a 97.55 last year to a 97.51 this year. So it's not necessarily a dramatic decrease or anything. I think that's just a statistical amount that could be one bankrupt taxpayer could have affected the tax rate in that respect. So we don't have an improvement. It's certainly, I don't like to see the tax rate drop, but it is not a serious drop, and it has not had a negative effect on it. Delinquent taxes, tax title liens, continue to be a problem.
Let's see.
I don't know how I put this politely without.
I don't know if you can be polite about it, quite frankly. It's been
In
3 years.
3 years, we have now had a attorney dedicated to foreclosures for 3 years. We have had no foreclosures. We have collected 1 redemption for about $10,000. Our tax title liens have increased from $4 million to $4.7 million in that period of time.
I made a strong suggestion last year at this very time to get rid of him and hand it over to somebody else, and we never did.
We
Never
really
pursued
need
it.
a firebrand who's going to go after these and do it. I understand the first set of 20-some-odd foreclosures are going to court this month. So I do understand that he is progressing and going forward, but that's 20 foreclosures.
Let me
There
ask you a
are
question.
300 foreclosures to do.
Have you guys brought him in for a sit-down meeting for a full-blown explanation on status of each? Where are we? We're dissatisfied with the progress.
We've had, we haven't had meetings such as you're talking about of late, but we have met with him previously. There's been correspondence back and forth, and we've relayed the concerns, not only our own concerns, but the concerns of the governing body that we need action on these things.
Mm-hmm.
It can't take 3 years to get 20 foreclosures, as Jeffrey's saying. There's over 300. And there's a lot of money at stake, which we could certainly use at this point in time. So he's aware of what our
Maybe
feelings
might
are.
I suggest that we ask council to come to closed session of one of our next meetings to review his performance and get a direct understanding of what are the issues and what are the delays. I mean, quite frankly, and I don't mean this as a criticism, I mean, if it's been 3 years, I'm sure you guys have been sort of after him on a routine basis, but
What do you think, that we should have been
Can I
stronger
make a
with him?
comment?
Unfortunately, I don't have the appointing authority as the manager. If I did, he wouldn't be the man in the
I don't
position.
know that the appointing authority is so much. I mean, I'm not the manager either, and there's things that I would have done differently, but in certain day-to-day things myself. So I hear your point.
Right.
But nevertheless, on a day-to-day basis, you know, this is not intended to be a criticism, but I think that, I mean, day-to-day, that's what, we're not doing the day-to-day stuff.
Well-
So we're not satisfied with the stuff that's happening, then we got to bring them in.
Can I
I
make a
think
comment?
I have a clear recollection that we brought this to your attention last year.
I was just, with all due respect to both, if I can speak for a second, with all due respect to the mayor and Mr. Davis, we had this exact conversation last year. We had this exact conversation at this time the year before. And it's no different today than it was then. And at the time, the very first year, I'm going to go back to the first year that we talked about this. This is the third year. The first year, the excuse was, not only was it verbally, but it was put in writing that it had to do with Bear Swamp.
Right.
That was the big excuse. It was always Bear Swamp. Well, you know what? Bear Swamp is done on his side, and I can't understand, if that was the only thing that he could achieve, then that needed to be his one project, and the other things that needed to be moved. And you know what? I think we're beyond that. I think that we need to we need to remove him immediately and put another tax foreclosure attorney in
I
there.
would suggest, Bear Swamp is not completely completed.
But it's the process
But
is,
the process is in, and I would not necessarily want to see somebody have to start up all
No.
over again with that. I certainly would want to see a procedure at Bear Swamp, and we're not in a hurry with Bear Swamp. We're not looking at producing any revenue on that.
that's the
Um,
point.
But I think I
What,
told them to do that
what I
first.
need to impress upon council when I talk about, we're not talking about $4.7 million worth of revenue here. When a municipality forecloses, if you foreclose and then auction off the property, you foreclose, we write off
God bless you.
those taxes. We auction it off at fair market value. That $4.7 million could potentially, I don't know what the assessed valuation of that property is, but we potentially could get $10 million out of it. The assessments are high enough. And we keep all of that money when we auction that property off. So it's not a matter of $4 million worth of revenue. Potentially could be a big money maker and a big help in our budget and our finances to get this moving. It's not going to happen in 1 year, but we need to get it moving. We need to get a revenue stream coming in on a regular basis from this.
Jeffrey, can I ask you, it's 4.7 million we're owed?
Yes.
Is that with interest?
No.
So that's not even with
That's
interest?
just taxes.
And what's the interest rate right now on tax?
8 and 18%, depending. Most of these are probably high enough to probably get bearing 18% interest.
So 4.7 million is the base of what we're owed
Yes.
without interest?
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. That's really not realistic because we never really get the interest.
Well, if they redeem, we do.
They redeem, we do.
My experience with this is there are a certain number, remember, when we issue tax title lien, we now no longer accept payments. They have to pay it all, right? There's a number of professionals out there, professionals as far as people not wanting to pay their taxes, and probably some of the businesses that are in this list are going to be very happy not paying our taxes as long as we don't foreclose, because they don't have to pay any taxes right now. We won't accept a partial payment.
I mean, we don't want to get it too much
So-
off track because we're here to talk about the
If we
budget.
Well, you
file
don't
that-
want to get
Fall
that
down at this point.
specific,
Yeah.
No.
because that should be in the back room.
Yeah,
But
I
a
mean-
lot of them, a good 75% will redeem.
Many of these we know are in bankruptcy, so
No.
none of these are in bankruptcy.
These are not bankrupt
So these are
accounts.
all $4.7 million worth of money that if we foreclose tomorrow. So let me just ask the basic question. Why didn't the tax office go out there and issue foreclosures on all of them tomorrow?
The lawyers, you need to go to court. You need a lawyer to do it.
You have to.
So why wouldn't someone have come to us with a recommendation and say, we have $4.7 million, let's foreclose them all tomorrow? We haven't. No, I mean,
You've
there's been-
appointed a foreclosure attorney.
We have, but I think it's a different discussion because I think that had, Let's bring it into closed.
I would be happy to discuss it further with you, but back there.
Yeah.
And
I just don't want to create the impression that we could bring someone at the next council meeting, hire them, and then within 30 days, someone's going to wheel $4.7 million worth
Yeah.
of cash
No.
into the town hall.
It's a time-consuming process.
And how much time might it take if we had F. Lee Bailey working on this?
Certainly not 3 years.
Would it take a year? Would it take 2 months?
I'd say
I
about
believe
Depends how
so.
long. With the foreclosure process, depends how far along you are into it.
Sure.
But from beginning to end, and you're probably more familiar with than I am.
Getting
as far
down,
as
some of them would take
foreclosures.
6 months, some of them would
For-
take a
yeah.
year, year and a half,
I was
depending on
gonna say 6
bankruptcy,
months.
stuff like that. But
You could probably get half of them within 6
half of them
months.
you'd have within 6 months. That's a safe number. Half you'd have within 6 months. They'd redeem and pay. Because they don't want to be foreclosed on.
All right, go ahead, Jeffrey.
All right. That's current fund. The utility fund is not as happy of a tune. Revenue-wise, we did the rate decrease last year. Revenue-wise, we did all right. We broke even and we received the revenue we anticipated. But if you remember, we have a much smaller growth in town than we did. Our connection fees died. We went from, between connection fees and interest on investments, of course, we don't have as many reserves in the sewer fund. We're not making as much interest because we don't have as much cash. That's our miscellaneous revenue. That decreased by $400,000. Most of it's attributed to the fact that we just did not have as many connection fees as we have. We aren't growing as fast as we have been. So we need, when we get into reviewing sewer in one of our evening sessions, we need to sit down and look at that a lot closer than we have in the past. Sewer ran a $176,000 loss for the year.
Sewer?
Yes, so we need to look at that. We need to do some 2-year planning on sewer to figure out what we're going to do to offset that. And that it really is it's unrelated to the rate decrease, except for the fact that with the rate decrease and with the financial condition the sewer is in, we have no cash reserves to absorb, this kind of loss, and especially we can't absorb that 2 years in a row. So we're going to need to do, and I don't think they're scheduled for today, but as long as we're recapping finances, we need to look at that. One of the factors that, may help us, but isn't helping us right now, won't help us for 2006, is we will probably be connecting people on Route 9 within maybe a month or so. And that project is winding down and nearing completion, and we'll start connecting the southern part of Route 9. We'll see some growth in the next couple of years on that.
Do you think we may see enough growth over the short term on the Route 9 hookups that it could begin to offset some of this initial loss of the $176,000?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance with work on the annual financial statement. I do want to sit down with the engineer and the utility operator and get a projection of when we're actually going to do connections, the quality of the connections. I know we have a couple of restaurants and some good commercial businesses, but a good hunk of that section probably won't be a big money producer. So we had to do some projections, and I'm prepared to have that done before we talk about sewer. Today, I don't have it.
That's an issue I believe I spoke to you about, Mayor, for the connection
Yes.
issue.
And the final recap I have, we can get at the budgets. I really don't have a good tax rate projection today. I've been really dealing on the annual financial statement,
And the cap.
and the cap, and getting the budget appropriation worksheet to a workable area. We don't have state aid figures yet. I'm very uneasy. Governor Corazon has mentioned that he may reduce state aid to municipalities, which would definitely not be a good thing for us. And now that I have the annual financial statement done, now I'm able to put my efforts into doing a better projection on revenue and being better prepared. Today, I would hate to venture a guess because, I'm either going to be criticized for being too low, or we're going to be pulling people out of here with cardiac arrest, and that's really unfair because I don't really have a good number prepared for you yet.
Did you mention about the state pushing the intro date up?
The state has extended the official, I mean, most towns, including ourselves, have never really paid much attention to the state budget calendar. But the state has amended, and for this year, the state budget calendar introduction date has been pushed back to March 11th from February 10th. We should have introduced yesterday if we were going to stick to the state budget calendar. They have also, if it needs be, those towns that want cap exceptions and want to go for referendum, they've extended those dates. They've extended the entire budget calendar. And that's a product of with the new governor, the whole state budget process slows down. So the new governor has a chance to get in and put his input into the budget. So that has been expected. I did forget one thing, since I talked about referendum. The budget as it stands right now is $888,000 under cap. We don't have a cap problem this year. We don't have that. We don't have to worry about. So what you guys all have to worry about is it fair, is it not fair? Unless you add $900,000 worth of goodies to this, then we might have a problem.
If we start doing that, just adjourn the meeting quickly.
Okay.
Put you out of your misery, huh? All right. Are you done, Jeff? All right, Mayor, then we're ready to move on to the senior. Mrs. Zuer's here as the senior director to discuss that budget.
Terrific. Good morning, Mrs. Zuer. Welcome, as always.
She heard 888, and she's ready. I said you heard 888,000 under
That's right,
cap,
she
and you're
figured,
ready.
wow, you got-
I saw your head going.
Got all that
I'm
money?
making believe that we're actually 888,000 over cap, and that we've got to.
Page J17 on your worksheets. There's also grants on later pages. We'll talk to it.
I put together some newspaper articles of different events that we had. So in case you do have a meeting here on Valentine's Day
Thank you.
night, you may be this month.
I'll be here Valentine's Day.
Perfect then. You're going to be included. Give you an idea.
I spoke to him yesterday, maybe not.
I know, so there's no-
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, maybe not.
It's just to encourage me to come. Yeah.
Why did you speak to him?
What do you,
Did he call you?
are you recruiting clients? Is that what this is about?
We have no limitations. Interpret it however you will.
Yeah, probably could have used it a number of times.
All right, Mrs. Zuer, maybe you can take us through your, any opening comments you'd like to make. As always, you're certainly welcome to do so, and say something
Is the
again.
red light on the base?
Is there, you just turn it over for a second, there's a switch on the bottom, and just slide the switch to the other direction.
There you
Now
go.
it's on.
Oh, that's power. Thank you. Yes, I do have a few opening comments. Thank
Please.
you. The Howell Senior Citizens Department is a multi-service program for senior citizens aged 60 and over. Services we provide include a daily congregate meal program, a daily home-delivered meal program, physical fitness, recreational activities including parties, day trips, and intergenerational programs, and classes such as computers, ceramics, crafts, and watercolor. We offer a vast array of educational seminars and lectures on such topics as the Medicare Modernization Act, prescription drug programs, elder law issues, veterans benefits, Alzheimer's disease, memory enhancement, senior safety, scam alerts, identity theft, healthcare issues, caregiver issues, and other programs pertinent to the needs of the older adults. In addition, we provide extensive case management services, benefit screenings, information and referral, and transportation services to our center, to medical appointments, to local schools, to supermarkets, and other local endeavors. Physical fitness offerings include aerobics classes, yoga, tai chi, and line dancing. We provide much-needed supplies to our lowest-income clients through our just-in-time senior cupboard. Free health screenings are offered all year long, including cholesterol, glucose, blood pressure, osteoporosis, cancers, glaucoma, et cetera, et cetera. We offer health fairs, and we provide the free flu vaccines. The Senior Center relies on a huge pool of volunteers to maintain and enhance our many programs and services. We are also proud of and grateful for the involvement with and the great amount of support from local community organizations such as the Howell Chamber of Commerce, the PBA, the Elks, the Women's Club, the Optimist Club, the public schools, and the Freehold Regional High School District. Our center has an active membership of more than 1,700 seniors, and last year we served nearly 5,000 seniors and family members in some way. On any given day, depending on what program is offered to our members, we have anywhere from 30 to 200 people at our facility utilizing our many services. In 2005, we served 10,350 meals on site and delivered 15,373 meals to our homebound clients. We transport an average of 60 clients per day to our site, to medical appointments, to supermarkets, and to other local sites that people need. Case management and other services are also provided on a daily basis on site and to our home-based clients who are too ill or frail to leave their homes. In 2005, we registered 202 new members. We're busting at the seams and have waiting lists for many of our events and programs due to both space and staffing limitations. Our staff members are outstanding, hard workers who treat the senior citizens of our community with the respect and compassion they truly deserve. I'm proud to say that we have received recognition on the county and state levels for the quality and quantity of services we provide, and I thank the township government for your ongoing support.
Thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Ms. You do a terrific job, obviously.
Pardon me?
I said you and your program do a terrific job.
Thank you very much.
So are there any specifics or highlights in your budget you'd like to point out to us? Is there anything new that you're looking to do by way of programs? Are there modifications to staff that are being requested or considered?
Mayor,
Yes.
there is, I don't know to what degree the council wants to address that. Here, normally, we save that, and you evaluate all requests at the same time for whether it be additional staff or upgrades. And I don't know if you want to hold to that or not. Anything other than that within the operating budget is what we normally address in any capital items. So,
And
it's
just
really-
as an aside, when do you have that full list of what the different personnel requests are that we'll be getting?
We will have it for you. It's really a meeting towards the end of the process. We really, because I've pretty much stated to most, if not all, the staff members during the managers' meeting that upgrades and new positions are really probably not in the cards. But nonetheless, the department heads, of course, want to make their case. It's not a question that there isn't need in some areas. There is, but, from a practical standpoint, we have to.
Well, let me
I have a quick question.
let me interject for just a second. And I don't know how many of us have had the benefit of reading that audit, but it was really well done, and there are some very strong recommendations as to staffing. Some specifically saying we are in dire need of additional people in certain areas in order to make this place run efficiently, and that at first it may be a hit, short-term hit, but long-term it'll actually be a savings just based on the increase in efficiencies and stuff. So that audit absolutely has to be a part of this budget
Right.
process.
Yes, it does.
One quick comment, though, on that in relationship to Carol, is the senior center was not in this audit.
Well, actually, it was in one way. It was recommended to be under the rec department.
Let me just say, interject one comment.
Excuse me?
Yeah, let me interject one comment. The report is being reviewed now. The manager's office has it. We have all received it. I have not had an opportunity to get through it myself. So this is an unofficial document, and it is still being talked about as a draft, and we're getting through it. So do not read into anything with respect to that. We're not commenting one way or the other on the report, and I should have made that statement before Councilman our Deputy Mayor had a chance to make his comments. I know they're all obviously well-intended based on the
I don't want to necessarily get into
outcome.
specifics. I'm just saying, as part of this budget process, we should absolutely take some of the considerations here and apply it.
Well, what I was thinking in relationship to the requests for personnel and upgrades and the like, that's when that report should come into play.
Yeah. Here is the agreement that we have, and I don't want to get too far off track. We're all looking at it. We indicated that we would then share it strictly with the department heads to get their input, and then we're going to collectively review that before we make this document public, in that it does get into very specific matters of staffing and personnel township-wide. So we only just received it. I haven't even opened it, to be perfectly frank.
I haven't either, man.
My work schedule has had me tied up quite a few nights this past week. So at this point in time, once we deliberate on it, and as an aside, We need to talk about when we're going to start doing that as a group. But we do need to, before we finalize the budget, at some point incorporate the recommendations. I think it is fair to say
Agreed.
That different than last year, where we had a different set of economic conditions and we had to make very difficult decisions, this report is not recommending wholesale layoffs and eliminations of staff and departments. And in fact, the council and I have to talk about how we're going to sort of issue that as a statement to put everybody's mind at ease because of the difficulty coming out of Trenton and the mixed messages we're getting from the governor and the lack of state aid and difficulties everywhere. We don't want our own employees worrying that are we in another situation the way we were last budget year. And all indications are that is not the case with respect to anticipated layoffs and downsizings or
Right.
whatever you want to call them. But be that as it may, we do have to go through it. Was there anything outside of the ordinary, Mrs. Zer? I mean, flu shots, I know that with the increases in the number of customers that you're serving,
Right.
are you adequately budgeted to continue to deal with the growth of our senior population and the amount of dollars that we've have allocated for the influenza vaccine?
For the flu vaccine, yes. For other areas, no. For certain programs and services that we offer, particularly in the program supplies and special events and instructors and that kind of thing, we're not, because we do have so many more people that we need to service.
Ma'am, I heard you say that you have seniors on waiting lists. Could you
We do.
expand on that a little bit?
When we have large parties and programs, we can house in that building the fire code, and with people being able to move around, because besides the fire code, we have to look at the safety of our people, and we do have some clients who are with walkers, one client or two has a wheelchair. So we can accommodate 140 people in that large upstairs room. And when we have a party or a health fair or a very large program, and we have a registration day, within 2 hours, we're filled to 140 people. And we have many people on waiting lists because we've gotten so large, so that we cannot accommodate them. When we have exercise classes, again, because we have that one big room, we haven't had anyone on waiting lists there yet, but because we have to have lunch programs and other activities going on at the same time, I see that coming. And when we have certain other events, when we go outside of the building, because we've had a cut in transportation staff, we've not been able to accommodate all the people who want to go. So we have waiting lists for quite a few things now, and it's because of
Space.
space, mainly space, a little bit because of staff, because we were part of the cuts, unfortunately. So we have more waiting lists than we've ever had before. You know, that's the conundrum we're in, I guess, because we have grown so much and people know we're there, which is a wonderful thing. That's why we're there. But now, how do we accommodate them?
This
So
may
that is an
cover you a
issue.
little. Sometimes, talks about infrastructure being neglected. Sometimes infrastructure is people. It's not just roads, it's not just buildings. The infrastructure of a community sometimes is people also. So they will be taken into consideration. It definitely will be talked about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Particularly, I mean, your biggest issue is facility. I mean, the biggest issue is the building.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's been the biggest hurdle, and when we talk about an overall physical plant review, that has to be contemplated into it, because the building
Yes.
you're in obviously is 99.99% of your problem. You don't have enough space to accommodate everyone. You could provide more programs if you had the space to do it.
Correct.
So
we could
as-
serve more people, right?
You could serve more
Because we-
people and not have this waiting
Right.
issue, so it begs the question, when we get to the point when our new manager's in place and we're doing many more things in addition to the budget, that's when we have to really look at the building.
Okay. And another issue, you're correct about that, and I thank you for acknowledging that. The other thing, though, and I know Mr. Davis mentioned about not discussing staff here, but I do need to say that because we serve many more people, because Howell is growing so much and the senior population is growing, and because people are, thank goodness, living longer, our social worker is swamped with work, and she's at the point where she's going to need to be starting with waiting lists. And one of the staff requests that I have is for a part-time social worker to assist her, because the problems with our clients are very intense. You know, the Medicare Part D alone is could be a full-time job helping people with that, but in addition to that, we do provide extensive case management and benefit screenings and things, and that, besides the other staff issues, that there's definitely a need there. I fear the waiting lists there.
Is there any opportunity for us to establish some additional relationship with the behavioral health organization that obviously provides some of those same sort of clinical parallel services, different discipline perhaps. But I
Not
don't
with,
know.
yeah, not with seniors and not the case management.
Okay.
I'm not talking about clinical, I'm talking about,
It's basic social counseling is what you're talking about.
and assistance with services that are available. It's
I just
yeah, it's
didn't
case
know if,
management, it's
as a
different.
part of the sort of litany of services they may provide, whether there may be a faculty in their organization that does that we could tap into.
I could certainly explore that with them.
Carol, have you ever had a waiting list, or has just recently you've been given a waiting list of customers waiting to get into the system? I mean, has the
different
waiting list increased
programs.
over the last year or so? Or?
The waiting lists have increased, yes, over the last 2 years. Anyone 60 or over who comes to our center, we will register the person and we will avail as many services that we can. But the waiting lists have increased for certain programs and certain events that we have because, right,
Because of space, primarily.
Well, people are getting older, too. It's just
I think-
demographic.
we have a lot more clients to
So
serve.
it's not like, basically, if I want to join a program and there's no room, it's not like you're tailoring the customers or anything like that. Say, okay, well, you had the service last year, now I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity. That's not the case. That's not happening.
It happens if the person participates in an event and the person physically or mentally is not able to do that anymore, and then there's a long process involved with that. But it's not a case of that. Generally, when we have a program or an event, it's registration on a certain date, which we put in the newsletter and which we advertise. So it's really first come, first serve. But we acquaint everyone, whether it's a new person who signs up today or whether it's someone who's been a member for 20 years, with that policy. And there are certainly certain events and transportation services and things that you don't have to worry about calling in that certain day and signing up for that. Our nutrition program, unless we're having a large event, we have not had to have a waiting list for that. Certainly, our homebound meal program will bend over backwards so that we've not had a waiting list for that. We won't have a waiting list for that.
All right, good.
So it's mostly the social events that,
It's more of the social events, and like I said, what I foresee happening is it could easily be the case management because our social worker is fabulous, but she's one person.
not trying to minimize the importance of the social events, especially for the citizens. I think that's something that I think we all agree that we definitely have to look at seriously, because it's unfortunate and almost a shame that we would have to turn anybody down that wants to participate. I'm a firm believer that seniors and kids, we must do all we can to take care of. So something we seriously have to look at. I don't know what the answer is right now to that problem, but we'll certainly have to look at it.
Well, again, I want to
Thank
get
you.
into specifics, but the main, and I didn't mean to scare you before, but basically, the audit actually said that, we're a growing town, there's a need for services, and one of the hugest needs is to accommodate the seniors and the kids like you're talking about. So those services have to continue to grow, which means more facilities, more people, more everything, so.
Right.
Okay.
Just
And
to
I,
get-
oh,
No, it's all right, I'm sorry.
excuse me. I just wanted to clarify that we do have waiting lists for social events, but we also have waiting lists for educational programs and health seminars and things too, because we utilize that room for that. So I wouldn't categorize those programs and social events. I would categorize them more as health and education kinds of things. So it's not only the parties, it's the education, it's the
Understand.
free screenings and things like that too.
Mayor, do you want to go through the,
Is there anything, I mean, just to get back from an economic perspective, it looks like when you go over your spending from a line item perspective, your 2005 sort of expected encumbered, and I anticipate there's receipts still outstanding, was 202 and change, and it looks like you're looking for 198, which is a little less than a 10% reduction in your line item spending.
Well, I was looking for more, but after the first,
yeah, the first round was
yes,
with me, so
the manager and CFO had
Okay.
other ideas.
So you're comfortable, I mean, the key things I think we want to make certain of, and your point is well taken about recreational programs, health and educational related seminars are very important as well. Putting those aside for a moment, the meals programs, the influenza programs, those programs where if there is an absence of service, someone could could be in a very difficult situation. Is there
Correct.
anything here where you feel we are putting a senior in jeopardy?
In the line items, special events and program costs, because costs for those things are tied up in those items.
And
So
where would
those
that
two
be?
areas, yes.
So you're going from, you've encumbered $47 or $4,400. You look for 75, and in actuality, you're going to go up to 55, and you've spent 44. So that is somewhat of an increase.
Right.
You think it
An
needed
increase
to be more?
from what was,
It's an increase from what
is
you actually the
encumbered.
expected encumbered.
$1,000.
So it's about $1,000 more.
We have,
The numbers-
you have a
It's actually less of a
$4,000
budget,
increase
though.
projected in just the flu shots and then the cost of the doctors there,
Okay.
which is the lion's share of any increase in her line item.
Right,
As a
which-
fundamental, I'm sorry, let me just say this for the council. As a fundamental process, a part of the process, when I look at these numbers, as well as the CFO, but when I sit there and I look at what last year's expenditures were. If there was $7,000 budgeted, 5 was expended, and then this year's budget requests 8, you're not getting more than 5, unless you make an argument that,
All right.
for it. And maybe I'll adjust it upwards a little, but not at the level that's been requested.
I think as we're getting started, this is the first of a long conversation. We got to get through the whole
Right.
budget before we can begin to make any kinds of additional movements, adjustments, changes.
your question was a good one. Is anything getting hurt?
Right. Anything else, Mrs. Erdy, you can add?
We have some
That's-
capital, and I'm remiss, I
Okay.
did not print capital reports out, they're printing right now.
Okay.
So I guess I can start with the capital. You can see if printer that is done.
Terrific. How's the new lift coming?
Nothing yet.
But it's
Well, we're waiting for
waiting to
community
hear
development
back from the
block.
community grant.
Correct.
You haven't heard anything back?
No, and I spoke with Tom Savino this week, and he said it's June or July before we know what the federal budget is and pass down,
You
so
know-
nothing yet.
Mayor, we've had informal discussions about whether to rehab the existing facilities or build a new facility. In line with the building of the new facility was to discuss the addition to the senior center at the same time. Because of the economies of scale, you'll have all the personnel and the equipment here already doing the construction. It would make sense if we were going to do it, we should do it at the same time.
And once again, I'll go back to this, and it absolutely recommends we start the new town hall.
Oh, yeah, clearly. All right, Jeff, do you want to start us on capital? Is there a lot in the senior budget?
No, I mean, we can start on the first one, of course, which is her addition.
Right.
40 by 60 addition, she has estimated about $1,075,000, and I guess we pretty much have beat that one.
And that's regarding costs related to a new building.
It's-
And
well,
what page is the capital?
Expansion,
You're making
40 by 60 addition to the existing building.
Okay.
yes.
All right.
It's an expansion.
The other thing that we have, Carol, is $65,000 for air-conditioned diesel van, 14-passenger with wheelchair lift.
So
Right.
what was the last one? The 14 vehicle?
14-passenger with wheelchair vehicle.
Right.
We put an estimate, I know we have a fleet out there. My husband even commented on that today, but oftentimes, half of those are broken down. And we put an average of 20,000 miles per vehicle on those vans. You know, we're cargoing precious people, and we need another van. So,
This would be in addition to the ones that we're using?
in addition,
because
I
the
don't
others
get
are
rid
down?
of, because we need a backup van, because we transport people every day. And if we don't have one bus that's working, we're in trouble. So,
Which
Pub-
one would you, I don't recollect, which one were you looking to, oh, you're not replacing, you're
No,
adding?
in
Right,
addition
That's right, I
to,
remember that, that's
don't
why I
get rid of
left
them
it.
until they're burying themselves.
You made that argument to me, I believe.
I did.
That's why it's
What
still
was the
there.
cost, since
Thank
we don't
you.
have it? It's
65,000.
65,000.
It's estimated.
Carol, you requested one last year, I remember.
I did.
Did you get one?
No, we did not. So I'm trying again.
Or was there anything else in capital, other than obviously a building?
Yeah, well, interrelated, if the building is not approved, she had put in for $100,000 for an elevator. to the existing building. And naturally, the $1,075,000, I think, includes an elevator if in fact the addition
Yes.
goes on.
Right.
I
right, so
would strongly suggest, until such time if we find out before the budget's adopted, that we leave that in for an elevator.
Yeah.
I think it's critical, because the chairlift is ancient.
We had more people fall this year, and we have people who won't go up and downstairs. And you've been in our building, you know that you have to get up and
Right.
downstairs for different things. And so in that sense, we are cutting services to people because of the layout.
All right, so the two capital items are $100,000 for an elevator, and we're on the 14-passenger vehicle, that's the $65,000.
Right.
Correct.
What
And then
page
it
is this
says-
on, Jeff?
First one.
I got the purchase transfer van is on the first page, G1.
Oh, here it is, okay.
So, and there is a transportation car that looks like didn't get
Yes,
past Mr. Davis.
I had also asked for that because we do have some clients who can't get into our buses and our vans. They can't get up the step, they can't maneuver with their equipment. And they're just so frail, so I was asking for a new car. We do get cars that are hand-me-downs from the police department that they don't drive anymore, and we have 140-some thousand miles on those cars, and they're not really very safe. They break down oftentimes when we have people in them, so I was asking for a car.
Yeah, I thought I did.
And the car, okay.
Didn't I
All
cut
right,
that?
so-
That had not survived the November.
It did not
Yeah,
survive. Okay.
I thought I cut that.
Okay.
I see the
Well, I was
bus.
excited when I saw it back in.
Big
So,
bus
so
next
the,
year.
so the van is 65, the air conditioning is 100. Was there anything else on capital, Mr. Filiatro?
The bathroom.
She had asked for an upgraded bathrooms, which we took out in November. It's a
Right.
duplicate of what was approved this year.
We've already proved that, yeah. It's
Right,
already done.
well, we're also, plus we're waiting for the community development.
Right.
Yeah,
It's tied
community
into-
I mean, the
Right,
money
I know
is
that was
slated
taken
there.
out.
The bathrooms
there.
have not been done yet.
Okay. But the
Right.
work is going to start at some point. I mean, I'm sure, is it out to bid or something?
We have to wait
We're
until
waiting to get
To
a.
hear
we hear
about
from the
the-
community development, because if we get,
It's a process.
Okay.
I think
Right.
June or July, we're supposed to do
yeah,
something.
June or July.
And then we'll start putting the bathroom in.
New
Correct.
I had also made the suggestion, too, there were a couple items that were approved last year, that timing, it certainly doesn't make sense. I think you had
The carpet.
some carpeting, flooring in there. Doesn't make sense to do them until the bathrooms are done, because they're going to be tracing tile and everything else through
Right.
there. So, it's a matter of doing the work and timing so we don't ruin the new carpeting and everything, too.
Okay. So what
Office
else is
furniture?
in, I don't know, is
The
there anything
only-
else?
Furniture.
There's some office
Where,
furniture.
what page is that in?
G5.
Oh, I don't know where it is.
G5?
What page was the elevator on? Oh, here it is, G4. Okay.
Office furniture,
Right.
senior office.
Right, I'm asking for 13 desk chairs. The chairs that we have that are used by staff members and also by our clients when we have computer classes and some other classes, we've had those chairs since 1980. They're really busted. So I
You're
was
just
asking for
breaking
some
them
new
in.
chairs. Pardon me?
You're just breaking them in.
Okay. So you're requesting $3,250 for
I
office
had,
furniture.
For that and
You
for
cut it
some
back.
file cabinets,
I had
correct.
taken the chairs out. I had said
Okay.
no to the chairs. That was
And
me.
what else on capital then? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional questions for Mrs. Zer while she's here?
Well,
There's just one other thing I want to make mention of is, there is,
Grants.
there is a grant that we do get from Office on Aging. It's a federal pass-through grant. Was that the one that increased this year, Carol?
Pardon me?
$27,500,
Yes.
which is on J21. There is a match involved, so a piece of, a good large portion of the operation of the senior center, we get $27,000 of grant money for it, and a good portion of the operation of our budget, the match, is outside cap. So I did want to point that out. If you're looking at the budget appropriation, there is another line outside cap for the grant-related costs. And I have sat down with Carol. We've looked at the budget that the county has approved as far as the grant, and these figures in the budget do meet with the grant. So The only decision we have there is, do you want the grant, do you not want the grant, and then the numbers just move. We can't really do much with those numbers down there, just adjust the ones that we've looked at.
So, just to provide clarity again, what you show here on J21 is what we're matching. So that's actually our cost.
It's our cost.
It's our cost, so it's in there. Okay.
But if we, and it's it's normal operating costs. When you look at the roster of employees, and a good hunk of that is employee salaries
Right.
and that sort of thing, that we would pay for anywhere with the operation of the department. If you don't put our cost there and match that grant, then we don't get the grant.
Okay.
Match, no.
And how much was that grant, Jeffrey?
Grant is $27,500. The match is $260,000 of her budget.
Can you find more grants like that?
I see like 23.5. Where's he from?
I go after whatever
We
grant
have
comes.
a grant writer to help us look. Yes, we're looking all the time.
It says the grant's 23.5. Am I missing something?
There's $4,000 on another line item.
I
The
gotcha.
4,000
See
is
it.
cost of
Yeah,
living, the
it's
also
23.5
further
is
below.
salaries.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So this, obviously, we need to make the investment to get the grant money,
Yes.
Correct.
is the end run. Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask one final
Sure.
question? Am I correct in assuming then that we are not going to be part of the assessment? The assessment's finished?
The assessment.
The audit, I'm sorry, the audit.
The initial one, yeah.
All we would, we're comfortable at this point, Ms. Zurin, saying is, in fairness, as you recall, when Ms. Showmaker and I met with you and the department heads, we said that when this process had started, we were going to all get the draft, we were going to all review it together, you included as a department
I
head.
wasn't part of that meeting.
You should have been there.
I was not part of that
Yeah,
meeting.
just to
I
be
think
very
it-
specific as an answer to her question,
I
though,
think
we
the
had
meeting was held with the folks, the departments that were going
Okay.
to be.
That were in, then I apologize. If the senior center wasn't in it, you will, as a department head, get the report. We're going to review it collectively as a governing body with the management team from all the department heads, CFO, manager, clerk, all the department heads. We're going to look at it together and then begin to digest it.
But just to be very specific in an answer to your question, we had a defined scope of work and for a certain amount of dollars, and we couldn't really tackle everything at one time. And I know it was my intent, I don't know if it was the rest of the intent of the council, but this was not to be a one-time thing. It was going to be an ongoing process periodically that would be done, and we'd look at different things each time. So at some point in the future, it is possible that they'll
Yeah.
come back and do other departments or just reevaluate again a few years from now how we actually did in improving efficiency, so.
I think it's safe to say we want to get through this and get a handle on what do we think of the recommendations, what do we think of the work product, did we get a lot of good value out of it, and does it make sense to use this same template, to the deputy mayor's point, in other departments that we didn't put through the process? So it's hard to say, is it going to happen tomorrow or the next day? I think it's fair to reason that it could, but it's intended, as you know, to be a good thing. And it's an external due diligence of our operations. And as the deputy mayor has already pointed out, there are some recommendations where they think we need to be doing more. So it could go either way, and that's the kind of outcome we would hope to have.
And we did use them another time. The person sitting right behind you, in fact, was another scope of work that we hired them for. So just to prove a point, that at times there will be some ongoing thing.
Anything else, Ms. Sarah?
That's it.
Not to rush you off, I'm just trying to keep us on schedule.
Thank you.
As
Thank
always.
you.
We appreciate your time and coming out on a Saturday.
Please, J10.
Okay, Mr. Davis.
Chief's up.
Chief is up. Welcome, Chief.
We have
Which page are we on?
page
Mr.
J11 is the main section. There are some outside cap appropriations on J12 and Homeland Security and the 911 dispatch system, and he has grants on J22.
Yeah, he's all over the
So
place.
J11 is probably our main page.
Good morning, Chief. But any opening remarks or comments about your budget or department you'd like to make?
No, I'm not going to make any remarks at this time. The budget that's submitted to your office or to the council is basically the same budget that's been submitted year after year, same items, nothing basically new other than the expansion of the EMS unit, which you'll find additional funds requested for that. Since we are on a tight schedule, I am on a tight schedule, and we're already behind, I'll keep it brief, and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
I'll ask the question that Joe asked Carol before. You know, just, as you know, our first responsibility is for the safety of our citizens. So is there anything that you feel is in jeopardy of hurting the safety of our citizens right now?
No, not at this particular time. There will be some manpower issues that we will address, or additional manpower issues that we'll address in the 2007 budget.
Okay.
Chief, from an overtime
was-
perspective, as you know, we made some modifications to the overtime budget last year, and as I recall, we reduced the overtime budget in '05 roughly 30% below what it had been from '04. Where in this does that show up?
The budget?
On page J10, look at
The-
J10.
So it's on
J10.
J10, I'm sorry.
Right.
I was on 11.
Yeah, the salaries, page 10.
So on J10,
The,
Reduced it to 212,000. Actual expenditures for the year were 217, which was pretty darn close.
right.
And the manager had adjusted the original department request, which was made in September, October, down to 225.
Good.
Yeah, well, that's not what 225 is.
Mhm.
I mean, how did you, I mean, I see, Chief, in the original, you obviously requested for more, and after manager and the CFO went through it, we're looking at about a 6% increase in what was encumbered in '05 to '06. I mean, were there real issues in managing to that overtime number that we put in there?
It was difficult, but we did accomplish what we tried to do with cutting the overtime budget. You have to remember that a lot of that is contractual, is out of my hands. The budget process is not the place to address the overtime issue. We're discussing contracts.
Right.
Well, again, the overall mission is safety, so.
Let's move on.
well, based on the expenditures, the '04, as you see, was 297. Council cut it to the 30% brought it to 212. The chief stayed very close to that, within $4,500 or so. With an organization that size, I think he did very well in maintaining that number. And I felt it prudent to, give, based on the expenditure, to bring it up to 2.25 from 212. And we expended 217, so we're talking
You're close.
$8,000.
Yeah, it's-
The percent calculation there is on budgeted, not on expended. So it's comparing the budget request for '06 to the budget on '05.
Yeah.
The actual, the 217 to 225 is actually a 4% increase, which is, I think, 3.9 is the contract.
That's correct.
So what we did is we equated it to the same hours.
Good, okay. And that was that's what I was trying to get at, was we had increases in salary. So if someone's working overtime and salaries went up by roughly 4%,
Right.
we need to account for that in there.
That's what that does.
Anything specific?
And if overtime's time and a half, wouldn't that be 6%, Jeffrey?
No, if I'm calculating on the actual amount spent at time and a half.
Okay.
The time and a half's already factored in, so I only have to factor in
The wage increase.
the wage
Okay.
increase.
Was there anything else, Chief, in the line item before we go to your capital budget?
Mayor, let me just ask, while we're on overtime, if I may, please ask a question of the chief. Chief, we just recently had some restructuring of the department. Some more captains, I believe, were updated and so forth. And I believe at the time this was brought up, it was mostly an intent to reduce overtime.
It was part of it. That wasn't the main issue.
Okay. However, I don't see a decrease in overtime reflected here. I see where it remained the same as last year.
The decrease was made last year, Mr. Malave. In years past, overtime ran in the $300,000 range.
I understand that. I'm well aware of that, which obviously I never agreed to that. But I was under the impression that the overtime would be reduced each year by us hiring new police officers, which we have, and now with the additional captains, I felt that we would see at least a slight decrease in the overtime monies being requested. But again, I see where it's, we pretty much holding the line from last year, and I don't see a decrease. So I'm wondering if what we're doing, is it really working, or is it just, we making moves just to make moves, per se?
we're not making moves just to make moves, Councilman. As the CFO explained to you, there's the salary increases each year, right? And if you're going to want to reduce the overtime, you're going to have to reduce it when you start talking in the contract, right? It's not something that, we can just reduce, right? It's contractual issues.
And Jeff, just out of curiosity, if you averaged up all the police salaries and came up with a time and a half number, what the cost per hour is, what is it? Is that number going to be like $80? Is it going to be $70? Then you can divide into that and see how many hours we're actually talking about. It doesn't sound like much, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, you're looking at, almost, 8 million. You're looking at what was expended last year, the $7.2 million budget. The percentage-wise, the overtime isn't a large amount. I'd have to sit down, there's, 100 line items. Well, you have 83 officers, something like that, Chief? So
90.
I'd have to average it. I have not done that.
You don't know what the average wage is per hour?
I have not done that, no.
You're looking at the area about $75 an hour.
$75 an hour. You were close.
So divide that. It's a third, I guess.
All right. Only the chief is right.
So 3,000 hours.
I mean, in fairness, we made a 30% cut in the overtime. We have to account for the fact that the officers got a contractual increase, so that needs to be factored in the amount of money that's set aside in overtime. We achieved some of the things we wanted to in collective bargaining, but not all of them. And as a function of some of these things,
Well, 3,000 hours is about 60 overtime hours a week.
Mayor,
It's, average is about 36 hours a man a year.
okay.
if I could just make a comment to the council collectively. Normally, on our budget process, anything that had to do with personnel was left at the very end. We did not discuss personnel, and I think for us to keep focused on really what we're working here today, we should stay away from all personnel on that issue and work with the line items that we have in front of us. And that's how we've done it in the past, and it's worked well.
I think Ms.
Because we can
Malabi's-
belabor this situation for hours.
I think Mr. Malabi's comment on overtime is a valid one. I mean,
Oh,
overtime has
absolutely.
been an issue, and so I think the chief has given us his explanation. Mr. Filiatro has given us his explanation. Anything beyond that is a function of the collective bargaining agreement, and obviously we just settled a new 4-year
Well,
agreement.
that was my comment. When I just did the math and you divided it out, it works out to 60 man-hours a week of overtime. That doesn't sound like much.
All right,
with
Chief,
100
under your operating
employees.
expenses, uniform office, anything else in there? I mean, that all seems to be
I have
nothing out
one
of the
item
ordinary.
I do want to specifically address myself, because it's on for next council meeting on the 21st. The chief had 4 police cars removed from the road
Right.
this year.
5.
Are you in capital now, Jeffrey?
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
in operate because of
Were they
police cars.
involuntarily removed from the road?
Now, if you recall,
they were smacked up.
last year, with Monmouth County Improvement Authority with the equipment lease program, police cars, as a recap, because I know this is Mr. Walsh's first budget, sitting up on the dais anyway. Police cars cannot be bonded for. They are an operating expense, and if we're going to pay for them, they have to be in the police's chief's budget. One alternative we have is Monmouth County Improvement Authority can finance police cars where we can't. So they have a equipment lease program every other year that we have been taking advantage of, and one of the things we've taken advantage of is buying police cars through there, because we can spread the costs out, and the cost is actually outside cap, as well as being able to spread it out over 2 years. So last year was the year for a Monmouth County Improvement Authority, odd number of years, and we did authorize 10 cars, which was a normal 2-year. We normally replace 5 cars a year, and that's our normal replacement. This year, the chief has had cars removed from service before they were planned. And we do not have Monmouth County Improvement Authority available for us, and we cannot bond. So inside caps, there is a $119,600 appropriation for, I believe that was projected for 4.
That was for 4.
Jeffrey, I'm sorry, go on.
And that number also was provided in the temporary budget, because under a state contract, as far as buying police cars, we need to order them now, or we won't find them. You know, they stop building them in April or May, because the Ford starts switching over to the next year's model. So we need to move. We're ready to order police cars next meeting. I just need a comfort factor on council that you're comfortable adding that's $119,600, We don't have a
We
caps
can't bond
problem, but it is,
That's
a
G1,
large
page G1.
appropriation
It's
that
on
you,
J11.
I'd like to feel much more comfortable that you are comfortable with it before we go and award the contract and spend it on
Okay.
the 21st.
You have a question, go ahead.
Jeffrey, a few years back, we decided to, because there was such a lack of maintenance. When I say maintenance, I'm going to talk turnover in automobiles for the police department, and we had set up made a,
Yeah, every year we.
every year we were going to do that. Are we adhering to that? And if so, why are we in this situation now? Or are we just catching up? You know what, Chief Carr, do you recall that?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Because that was something that we tried
Right.
to work on very
We're
diligently.
trying to catch up with the vehicles because of the lax of the years in the past. These vehicles that were taken out of service recently were taken out by the township mechanic after they found some safety issues with the frames rusting out. So this was not planned, and we didn't really anticipate it. The vehicles that were taken out were approximately 8 years old, so we're still trying to catch up. And we weren't planning on taking those out of service completely, but
This may be an unfair question to you, but do you anticipate any other what do you think long-term that we're looking at here? Because I know that we have been trying to catch up. Do you anticipate this situation arising?
hopefully not.
Is there any way that we can kind of get I know we have,
Well,
80-some
We have
vehicles?
been adhering to a replacement
We've been using the
program.
Monmouth
Right.
County Improvement
And-
Authority
and we've been
every
trying to
other year.
project 2
I just
years.
This
don't want-
sounds like
Yeah.
it's something very
Every other year, basically, is what
unexpected.
we've been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have an inventory of the fleet chief, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
These four,
That's my
just
point.
something unusual happened.
Right, just something that the mechanics detected recently.
Along those lines, unrelated to the police department, I have to talk to you about another vehicle that needs to be replaced for a very similar reason in another department. But I'll do
All right,
that
so
at-
let's just get a quick general consensus, knowing that we cannot use the improvement authority the way we have. When this comes to us at the council meeting, anyone have any reservations about this so that the chief and Mr. Filiatro are not surprised? Deputy Mayor,
I do.
you have a problem with it? Okay. Mr. DeBasco?
Well, again, right in there, it talks about all the maintenance and purchasing of vehicles. So we're kind of going backwards, I think.
All right, you have an issue with it?
I want to read the audit.
Okay.
I can't make a clear decision yet.
You have an issue with Ms. Walsh?
I'd like to ask Deputy Mayor Tabasco, what do you mean go backwards? Help me. So I
Well, we're
understand.
starting a budget process, and we never got together to discuss our goals and objectives and policies that we'd want to put forward. And this document has a lot of things in it that should absolutely be part of the budget process from the high level. So going through the weeds, the details, before actually discussing our goals and objectives and going through this is actually backwards. We might have all different opinions if we actually set objectives first. I go along with our new manager and his way of doing things. That's how we should be doing this budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a fair point that we need to establish among ourselves what are our priorities, which will largely drive spending.
Because again, just to get very specific to this audit actually covers the acquiring of vehicles for all departments and the maintaining of vehicles for all departments and how to make them last
How many-
longer. And
At a
How
high
many-
level,
How
though,
many vehicles?
before we do that,
Well,
we
just-
got to, are we at least comfortable? We have an emergency situation, there are 4 vehicles that are offline.
well, I'm all right with that.
And we need to be able to make certain that we get them back online. This is not something we would like to have to do, but it sounds like it's a decision we've got to make.
Well, again, the mission is safety
Okay.
at risk. So
So
if safety's at risk,
Yeah, that's what I'm having a hard time with, that if we need 4 vehicles on the road that we don't have, I don't know what that has to do with the book.
Now, I think.
no, I was just making a general comment, Bob.
At a
Oh,
high
okay.
level,
Yeah.
from a
Oh,
planning
okay.
perspective, he's talking, you set the plan, you work your budget, because
Okay.
one is
Oh.
a function of the next. But just to move off this point, are we comfortable that we can give direction that when this comes up, we're going to act on it favorably? Because I think he needs that direction.
We do, yeah, we have all the 14 vehicles, because by the time MCIA was approved last year, we did not have state contract for police vehicles, so we have the 14 slated for your approval of purchase on the 21st meeting. And that includes these 4. That's
Which
why I
are
had the
part of the budget.
discussion.
But that's
Once
the
the
maintenance plan.
21st goes through, you approve that resolution, I can't, and you can't then take this line item out of there.
Can't go back.
Okay. So, high level, it looks like
Yeah.
there could be some concerns, but it looks like there's a majority to proceed with this. Fair statement?
Fair.
Fair statement? All right, you're still thinking. You're a
I'm
yes.
all right with it.
You have
You're
enough
right.
direction
It's like
to
3-2 right
prepare
now.
it, and
Okay.
we may deliver on it more then. Anything, before we get off the operating budget, is there anything else we need to talk about in the operating? I mean, obviously, this is the first pass.
No,
All
sir.
right, let's go to the capital budget.
Well, the capital's on G1.
All right, G1, it looks like there is the OEM command vehicle, that doesn't really, is that under Mr. Sanisak, or is the chief talking about that?
Mr. Sampson.
Okay. So what do you have, chief, on
There are 4 items there.
police equipment? So it's conference room chairs, high-definition photo ID equipment, replacement of handguns, and traffic radar units.
The high-definition photo system for $12,000. I'm 95% sure I have outside funding for that.
Okay, so we can take that out?
What's that?
Okay.
Outside funding, the
Okay.
chief is pretty sure.
Big C has money outside to get it.
For the high definition.
As a practical matter, the chief's done a very good job in getting grants.
Agreed.
Always, yeah, always have.
So is there anything in here anyone has any concern with? I mean, these are not major ticket items. I think the handgun chief is a part of your plan. It's a maintenance program. We see this
I do
every year.
believe that's phase 2, is it not?
Please
It's
don't tell
phase two,
Cheryl Sawyer we're
yes.
getting chairs.
Okay. And the radar units, chief, are these the big devices that tell you how fast they're
No,
going?
these are for the patrol cars themselves for traffic
This is
safety.
for outside Lions Court when you get ready to go to work in the morning.
Yeah. So this, chief, will all of the vehicles now have radar equipment once you have this acquisition?
All the ones that are pertinent, not all the vehicles.
All the ones that are pertinent?
Right.
Okay. Knowing where we are with respect to traffic safety, and there isn't a council meeting where we don't have people coming to us telling us about speeding and traffic control, is there anything else from an equipment perspective that, and I'm not usually one to ask to put things in the budget, as you know,
There's,
but is there anything else we could be doing?
Chief, why don't you,
There's another issue here, which what was it?
we talked about the electronic signs, we talked about on the traffic safety unit.
Electronic speed signs.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
could be.
we're researching that, and there might be outside funding for that, so.
Okay.
Well, give them an overview of what we discussed in reference to that.
Well, there's a couple other issues here in the
Oh, there's other capital?
capital.
Go ahead, chief, take us through.
There's a laser measuring device.
Where's that
What
at?
page is that on?
I believe that's still in the budget.
I don't believe.
I don't see it in that category.
That was a laser measuring device that not only will we use for serious motor vehicle accidents, but it's also something that engineering can use.
Maybe it is an engineering.
You mean like a thing you get in Home Depot, $50?
Where is it?
No.
Nothing you do much.
He's getting the
It
industrial
was,
grade.
was
Yeah,
it
he's
in
got the
capital
industrial grade,
program?
okay.
How budget
We
was
discussed it at the management meeting.
What's the cost, chief?
65.
And what will this do?
It's for measuring like fatal accidents. It's for diagramming. And as far as engineering is concerned, they can use it for whatever they do for measuring.
Okay. So maybe you guys can get back to us on this, so we can see it in the report.
It's in it.
Oh, it
I see
is?
something in it's called field survey equipment?
Is it
That's,
6,500?
no, that's
Is it
GIS,
$65,000?
No, it's 65,000.
No, 6,500.
Oh,
not
6,500.
It said, yeah, field survey, $6,037. It's under engineering.
What page are you on, Vin?
G5.
I don't know that it's the same.
I do believe
that the
that's
same?
GIS stuff. I don't think that's laser.
Probably
measuring.
something different.
Well, no,
Yeah, I
he has GIS upgrades, and then underneath of it, he has
Field survey equipment, $6,037. All right, rather than try and belabor it, why don't you guys get back to us, work with the chief? This way we're not kind of
Yeah,
trying to
okay.
find a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
What else was there, chief, equipment-wise, that we didn't see?
For traffic safety, there was a $2,000 request for traffic counters, survey equipment. That gives us the traffic surveys that the council's constantly asking for.
All right, and that's not in here either for some reason, so.
That's 2K?
I thought your budget was supposed to be amended to include this stuff. This is.
It was. That's what I'm looking at.
So what the
have it,
chief
but
has
we
might be
don't.
different than what we have.
Excuse
Okay.
me?
It
You
was
have it, but we don't?
Actual land survey equipment. It's not
Okay,
laser
so-
related.
All right, so maybe for the next draft that we see of this, the chief and the manager, you guys could add in those two items that we haven't seen. Was there anything else, chief?
What was the cost of the traffic counter, chief?
2,000.
2,000. And also traffic-related were additional radar units We just talked about
We
that.
talked about that. Radar
That was-
units.
Yeah, we
traffic
have
radar.
those. That's the 14,000?
14,000.
Okay. So that you know, Chief, what we have in front of us, conference room chairs, high-definition photo,
Which was removed.
handguns.
That was removed.
Which was removed, oh, it was removed, okay. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, you said you had outside funding.
Traffic
And the
radar.
traffic radar units. So the other two things you talked about are not in this, but I'm sure in the next cut,
And the
we'll
speed,
get
there was
it.
actually 3 electronic speed signs, too.
And the electronic speed signs.
How much were they?
That's something we may have.
You may
grant
have
for.
access to that as well. Here-
Actually, he was talking about an additional 67,000 to the 25,475 under, because 60, I mean, oh, it's, he said
It's
65,000, it's
6,500.
6,500.
Okay.
6,500.
Yeah, 6,500.
So
So
let-
we're
we'll-
talking about that.
We'll see that in the next draft.
Right.
Okay. Chief, knowing the request, the number of requests we are getting to do a traffic study on my street, God bless you, and a traffic study on my street, a traffic study on my street, and you're conscious to how we try and balance being responsive to the public and at the same time knowing that we cannot obviously have a traffic study on every street. I mean, will this the new things you're talking about, will that be able to increase our capability to respond to more of those requests?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
No.
Mr. Walsh, any other questions? Mr. Malave?
No.
You're good? You're good? Thanks, chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Good day.
Can we take a 2-minute bathroom break?
Sure.
And then who's up next?
Mr. Marinaccio.
Mr. Marinaccio's up next? Okay, terrific.
Just for the rest of the count, at about 10:25, 10:30, I'll have to head out for the day, basically, and watch the rest.
All right, we'll take a 2-minute, Chio. All right, we're back in session. Thank you. What page are we on? Welcome, Mr. Marinaccio.
Good morning.
Seven.
Good morning.
Okay, Jay, which?
J7. Again, that's, we're planning and zoning.
We'll do planning and zoning.
Mr. Marinaccio, as always, we appreciate your coming in on a Saturday. Any opening comments or statements on your budget you'd like to share with us before we get into it?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, so we're on J7, starting with planning and land use. Rather than go through each item, is there anything that is demonstratively different from what you have done last year to this year in terms of requests or anticipated expenses?
I guess the biggest item at this point is transcription of minutes for the meetings. That line item has increased.
It's with the retirement of Mrs.
Mrs. Taylor.
Which,
That would be other professional
Under
consultants.
line 415, other professionals.
other professional. Okay, I see.
Under
it.
operating expenses.
I see it. So that's going up by 27%.
Yes.
Now, that's a function that she's retired. Can't we replace her?
Well, not for what we were paying her. Her
Have we-
fee was much below market, the normal market, expenditure for something
Did that
like
go out to bid? I mean, that doesn't go out to bid for that, right? Does it go out to bid?
No.
It has not. It's less than the bid threshold in and of itself.
Yeah, about,
You said it's less than?
Yeah.
under operating expenses, 4 lines down, other professional consultants.
So we encumbered 36,000, you're looking for 56, and 56 so far has been approved. So we're saying that what Luella had been doing for 36, somebody wants an additional
Well, that's-
$20,000.
No, Lowell was under consultants. She was 17 and it's 27. It's going to jump up 10,000.
She was 17.
Under professional consultants, correct?
Yeah,
My-
under
my-
other professional consultants, it looks like we spent 36,019, is that right?
No, down to the bottom part of the page.
Right.
Down at
That-
the bottom?
That is the planner, the non-attorney
Right.
professionals.
Okay, so it's not other professional, comma, consultant for
Oh, on
36,000.
the bottom down here, 17 for the well,
It's
okay.
bottom at 17.
17.5.
Let me just find that one.
And now we're going to be at 27.
Why don't I see, okay. 17 and you're going to 27, so that's a $10,000 increase.
Yes,
But before we get to that one, could we just go up to the planning one first?
sure.
So under planning and land use, similarly, we spent 36 and we're moving to 56.
Correct.
What does that encompass?
Well, that's non-escrow items, attendance at planning board meetings by other professionals, seminars, et cetera.
I mean, is there what's the reason, though, for an additional 20,000? I mean, that's a big nut.
Well, from the expenditure point, and, again, we're dealing with an unknown based on the amount of meetings that we have and the additional,
The lion's share of that is the transcription of the minutes.
but given everything, Mr. Filiatro is correct, given that Mrs. Taylor isn't available to do the transcription anymore, at a much reduced rate than everybody else would charge, this is,
All right, so in this
Well, not-
category as well, this
That's not the
reflects.
only reason, though.
So what are, then what are the reasons?
The caseload that the board has been deluged with since, what, May or June?
May or June, I believe the intake of new applications is in the 50 to 60 range.
50 to 60 new cases. That's all going to require transcription.
We have a mad rush because of the anticipated
Exactly.
master plan
Exactly.
changes.
And they're still coming in on a daily
That's
basis.
kind of funny, actually.
And it's hard to anticipate. We've done the best we could. Hopefully, this number will.
I mean, the only comment, and we're not yet at a point to start going through this and adding and changing, but I'm uncomfortable with that big of an increase. I can appreciate.
I understand.
Your forecasting, which we need to be aware of, but that's a fairly magnificent jump.
Although the overall category, he actually goes down 12, he went from 342 to 317, so.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, clearly, I mean, good work in the fact that you're looking to cut your budget by 13%, so. All right, so is there anything on the top piece you need to point out to us?
No, I think everything else is pretty much in line with the previous year. I don't anticipate anything additional.
Okay.
That was the one that cut the budget.
So now we go down to zoning board.
Yes.
Same thing here, it looks like about a 5% increase.
Again, same reasons.
But in this one, the net is, while in planning, the net is it's going down. On this one, it's still going up.
That's because it's so small by comparison.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything that we can do sort of unconventional around the replacement of Miss Taylor? I mean, is there some transcription service? I mean, do we need maybe to have a court reporter, the way that many of the professionals bring in their own court
Well,
reporters?
what we've taken to.
That's more costly.
What
That's
we've
more costly?
What we've taken to, and I believe you're aware of this, as far as, again, with transcription services, but I'm going to go backwards for a second, with the planning board, is I guess it's going to be more in a synopsis form now than verbatim minutes.
Could you say that?
It's going to be more synopsis than verbatim minutes, and I know there was discussions with, trying to remember the gentleman's name, and I can't,
Mr. Binder.
Mr. Binder, as to providing you, the planning board members, and with that form of a recap on a planning board meeting. Again, we're dealing with an unknown. We try to do the best we can.
Sure.
And, we don't want to come up short at the end of the year because.
Again, it's driven by the anticipated
Right.
caseload.
I know that there's at least 7 or 8 new cases for the zoning board already this year
Yep.
that have come across my desk.
I just wonder aloud, and now's not the time to work the
Right.
issue, but potentially something to think about is there a way that we could consolidate sort of the transcription of all of the different boards and commissions, including, this governing body, through a singular vehicle that would enable us to sort of leverage the economies of scale and get that non-verbatim kind of thing, and you put it out as one big bid where the whole town is putting out a transcription service bid, and it incorporates the zoning board, the
Makes
planning
perfect
board,
sense.
the township council, and put it out there, and try and leverage the economies on that.
So
I don't
even if
know.
we did that, Jeff, would you still have to separate it into these various line items?
You could probably do it as a function of proportionate shares, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, but planning and zoning, certainly we should and properly allocate that to, their proportionate share. to
That would be fine.
Is that something as an
Makes too much
aside?
sense.
Is that something as an aside, Mr. Davis, that we could look at and find out, I mean, I know from private industry, a former client of mine who doesn't do municipal stuff, a company called Burrell's, you'd see them when you're done watching Meet the Press. It says you can get a transcription of the program you just watched from this kind of service. There's companies out there that do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so maybe that can give us some relief in this.
I'll speak offline with Mr. Davis on that.
Are we ready to go on? So that's planning and zoning. Are you shade tree, environmental, or
Nope.
is that Bill?
I guess we go to J9 now.
Code, housing.
So you're J9? Okay.
Code and housing.
Any other questions on planning and zoning? Okay, so J9. All right, construction code.
No,
up,
next one
Oh,
down.
I'm sorry, code enforcement
And housing.
And housing.
Okay. Anything you need to point out to us here?
Well, just as far as some factual information about the proactive approach that my inspectors have been able to take in the last year or so with our inspection process and violations and whatever, and with Judge Kaplan sitting on the bench. I think last year's number for fines and penalties realized in municipal court was in the $60,000 range. In addition to that, our housing inspections have been able to determine and provide to the township a minimum of $500,000 in additional assessments from work that was done without permits, and that continues to work its way through. And it's a good thing, you know. It's a necessary service. We will continue to fight the fight, so to speak, and but those are our numbers roughly, and you know, I anticipate that number going up this year as far as what the result of issues in municipal court and et cetera.
I don't know, right place to sort of mention this, because I don't know if it's an expense or not, but Mr. Marinaccio and I have become rather close in that the mayor's office, whoever has preceded me and whoever will succeed me will live this same process. I've become the sort of code enforcement hotline. And so as a result of that, I call Bruce and say, can I call Mr. Marinaccio? And he's been gracious enough to allow me to go to him direct as I get these. And I seriously think maybe we need to consider a toll-free number or a code enforcement hotline, where when someone sees something, they can anonymously call or do whatever they want to call and say, I just saw 28 bags of garbage in front of the so-and-so. Because in fairness, I mean, we're 5 professionals. We get up and go to work for a living. And
Not to get too
not to get too descriptive on
We're
the,
laughing because we know what you're talking
right,
about.
on the 17 phone calls I got in a 30-minute basis. But frankly, none of us have the rapid-fire response time because we all have jobs and we do other things aside from this.
It's what I'm about to tell you ties in with what you're talking about. The you know, our webpage is being redesigned as we
Correct.
speak. Part of that, I asked them to include, it's a citizen's complaint,
We've seen it, yep.
and the citizens will be able to log on themselves, log the complaint, and there will be a list of departments and what those departments do, so they can actually direct their own RTC, as it were, that we use now, which will eliminate the RTC program as we currently know it. That will give us very many different categories that we can look at and evaluate. So I think that's going to be
It'll be a help.
It'll be a very big help
It
for
is.
code enforcement.
To a point, we do receive some emails from citizens that put us
On notice?
on notice.
They are our customers.
Yes, they are. We address them as quickly as we
Absolutely.
can.
Well, I would ask maybe, on a serious note, we take offline, literally, a code enforcement hotline, because I think the web is a great start, but it could potentially increase enforcement, which could lead to
Absolutely.
revenue for those that are violating the law.
Absolutely.
And
It's, you know, it's 64 square miles. And
Good, okay.
Okay.
So what can you tell us on
Hook up
construction
with me on
code?
that, B. We'll
He
get
does not do
together.
construction.
I'm sorry, on
About-
code enforcement.
I don't want
housing
anything
matter.
else.
Is there anything in this budget you need to point out to us?
Well,
No.
very similar.
Our line items are all in line with the previous year. We had our salaries and expenses are down from last year. So
There's overtime in there.
there's no overtime allotted for this year.
Right, well, we
Right.
eliminated overtime and you.
Yes, we know.
Okay,
Not a problem.
There is one vehicle request.
so there's
Well,
something in capital? Let's go
well,
with
a
that.
vehicle replacement for,
Is
Two
that
replacements.
land use vehicle,
yes,
24,000?
yes.
And there's a second one?
Not for this year, just the one
Okay.
for this year.
Just the one.
That's a 6-year projection, so that's only one for this year.
So this is a replacement, a vehicle is going offline,
Yeah, we had one of the hand-me-downs is getting to the point where it needs to be replaced.
Hand-me-down. That's a good line.
There's no one left to hand it down.
No,
Okay.
it's $140,000, and it's
So what do you, I mean, just for our benefit, what kind of vehicle is this?
whatever is available. It doesn't need to be a four-wheel drive vehicle. It can,
Well, actually, is on state contract, because we bought one this year based on what was approved
I
last
think
year.
it was the Jeep Liberty this
It was
year.
a Jeep Liberty for $17,000,
Which-
which is cheaper
which
than you
will-
can get the car. So
Which
that-
more
that
than
really-
serve the purpose. It's fine. It's, you know.
So is-
17 instead of 24?
Well, I would like,
I
to-
would
that
allow
was,
for a price increase,
Yeah,
but I
so would I.
certainly think we can cut this down.
All right, so when you do the next draft, you'll come back with a
Well, I'll look at the
closer
state
estimate?
contract.
yeah, exactly, which is what I'm going to talk to you about, the construction code at the end of the meeting. Yeah, he's in
Is there
bad
anything
shape.
else for Mr. Marinaccio then?
No, I think that's it.
Anything else you need to add to us, or,
No, sir. You don't have enough time.
as always, you're a gentleman. Thank you, Mr. Marinaccio.
All right, have a nice day.
And thank you for your help of late with this
Yes.
code
Right.
enforcement hotline, seems to be my
Yes,
cell phone.
You got to close the kitchen door sometimes, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay.
MIS is next.
We're ready for MIS?
Yeah,
Okay.
J3, I believe.
J3. Hello, Mr. Banowski.
Good morning.
Welcome. Thanks for coming out on a Saturday. We appreciate it.
Dave, just so you know, I'll be stepping up in a second. Nothing against you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Dave, before we officially, God bless you. Before we officially start with this, I want to make a couple comments, if you don't mind. I want to thank you for the outstanding job that you and your small team have done with the cable access channel. I don't have cable TV at home. I have satellite, but I've seen it at neighbors' houses, and I've gotten reports from other people. And you took us from what was nothing and have created a very, very nice platform. And you are, truly, we are indebted to you for the way you've handled that. Obviously, it's still a work in progress, and we know you've made outstanding investments in that. So we're grateful because you've really done a fabulous, fabulous job. So thank you very much. And at the right time, we want to have a real public kind of thank you for you and anyone that has helped you. Perhaps you can inventory who those people are. I know it's not many, but we would like to have something at a council meeting to publicly acknowledge and recognize you because it's been fabulous.
I do have one question before you get going, too. We council members are usually active at night, so we never get to see these broadcasts. Is it possible to burn a disc from the master disc that we can then get if we
Yes.
need to?
Yes, because part of our archiving is to put the council meetings onto a DVD.
That's right.
So I do have of the ones we have digital, master
There you
log of DVDs, so it's
One
just
of
that burning another one
additional
if you
things
send.
we need to consider is, do we want to establish a fee because on the general public has the right to ask for this?
To ask for them. Okay.
Well, eventually, we're going to get to where it's a web-based
Right.
picking
We know
off the
we'll have it on the web as well.
content-based.
Yeah.
Yes,
On demand, just pick it. And
But
The
before we
current-
got too deep into this, again, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent job. So we're on J3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. MIS, here we go. Is there,
We'll start with the good news first.
yeah, that's, we don't get a lot of that, so that would be appreciated.
But, and part of why this is last year's capital was a large one, and some of the anticipated software was not realized last year and will not be installed to this year. So a lot of the software maintenance that was put in when we did the budget last year anticipating is not going to be realized until next year's budget. So for the one, it's, as I think, $44,000 for software maintenance, should be $29,075. Next year, that will go up. It's going to be at least 3 or 4 heavy applications going there, but this year, instead of it being 44 and going up 22%, it can actually go down to 29,075 and be a nice decrease.
If we could talk maybe at a high level for a second. We know that we have investments in the web overhaul. Does that appear here, or does that show up in capital?
It's already,
I know, I mean, but are there any additional expenses? We put it out, we had the money from last year. Is there anything
Right.
new we have to account for?
I'll have to double check. Usually when you purchase, you usually get your first year of maintenance.
Thanks, Councilman.
So And I believe this company was $100 a month for hosting and service, so it would be $1,200. I'm not real sure if that's going to be definitely a part of this year or next year, but I'm pretty sure most of them usually give you the first year of hosting with that in the initial
I
capital
thought that
price.
that was the case with
I'm pretty sure. I
Yeah.
just have to.
I guess the other question that we would all probably have is, based on, it's about $500,000, maybe more, capital investment last year on all the different technology things, are there any expenses that we will now begin to realize as a function of, we've brought in all this new technology, training for users or department heads, and the things that come along with that? Is that reflected in here?
No. No, because like I said, a lot of those expenses will be next year for software maintenance. And
Okay.
what we're trying to do is obviously learn from our mistakes, but being part of the capital purchase, extensive training for the users.
Was in there?
Will be in part of that capital. So that's anticipated that, and obviously the maintenance and upkeep of that, part of it, we say would be under, say, software maintenance, but once we get into the personnel side of it, the amount of personnel to now understand this application and support it on our side, the MIS side. And it's part of the reason why, when we go over to personnel, why there was an ask for need of increased personnel in the MIS.
Okay. Any questions on the operating side of this budget? Mr. Malami? Mr.
Are you
Wall?
asking for more employees? Is that why the
Correct.
salaries are going up?
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the salary piece yet.
I
but
was giving
we
good news
will.
first, and then we're going to go to that, but
Yeah, we're going to address all of those personnel
For
issues.
Mr. Walsh's benefit, and my first year I'd sat here, when do we see that piece? We should be getting the list by department of how many employees they have today.
We just discussed.
And then what the requests are that they want added to that, which supports some of those increases in the staffing. So when do you think we're going to,
Probably next meeting.
okay, so next week, you said? Or next
Next
month?
meeting.
Next meeting.
Whenever they're
Okay.
scheduled, yeah.
So that's when we'll see whatever amounts to this increase in your staff.
Jeffrey, would it be troublesome in the past, I'm going to go back like maybe 3 years, when we did that, Bruce, we used to, if you recall, we used to get a list of every employee. It was like it was a spreadsheet, all the employees for every department, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Do you recall that? I think I have one from
What is it?
probably
Jude?
from 2003 or 2000. It listed the departments, the employees that were in there, and then what they were at, what the departments were asking for in a
Yeah,
way of,
We have that.
could you,
That's in Human Resources.
yeah. Can we do it like, we did that in the past in budget hearings. We haven't done it in the past for a couple of years.
Well, last year we
Okay.
didn't do it because,
We were different,
well, I said there was no upgrades and no new
Right.
personnel,
And
period.
who knows, we may come to that.
It's just nice to see an overall view of what.
But we can get you the
Okay.
employee.
Is there another piece in the operating budget that you have? Or
no,
this the only
what's
sheet?
right there, that was the one that went down, and obviously the increase in personnel, what the MIS is asking for.
Okay.
But in following line, everything else went down in line items, except for specialized expenses, which is a consultant expense. In today's modern technology and the sophistication, that's about 6 days of just having somebody come in and with the advanced technology helping us get to the next level.
Mayor, I think, and Dave, it may be a good point to let the council know how we're doing with the cable TV person who's been, the part-time that's been coming in, because we did have some problems with that.
Yeah,
not too
originally
long
we've
ago.
had some problems with getting a part-timer and have that part-timer with the installation of the digital technology. Worst case scenario, at least we can record automatically, meaning without somebody there, but you don't get the advanced picture-in-picture and the other services. And part of the increase of the part-timer was trying to, anticipation of, the planning and zoning boards being taped. So
Right.
that was kind of, and actually letting us get caught up, because the TV has really taken a huge quantity of time out of the MIS, and there are services to the actual employees that haven't been provided as well as they were in the past due to,
Mhm.
being spread out so far.
But it's worked well now.
Do you want to, you had some questions, I think, on cable TV.
Just a quick question, Dave, if I may. Like the mayor stated, I also want to thank you for taking on this task. It's well overdue, and people do appreciate it. We get a lot of compliments on it, actually, on the television channel. So But I've watched several of the meetings and nights, and one of the things that, I don't know if it may have nothing to do with the budget, but I do have a question since I have you here. These cameras here, we have two cameras, one here, but they don't really zoom out, or they're not being monitored to zoom out. So when, per se, professionals speaking, say on this corner of the room, making a presentation to the council and to the public, a lot of the times that person can't be seen. The presentation is missing. Also, the professionals are never, we can never see the professionals when they speak to us, Mr. Davis and Mr. Filiatro, Mr. Gannon, and so forth. Is there a way that could be somehow managed so that whoever's speaking could be at least viewed by the people?
That's a twofold process, which when we get to capital is in there, is one, to upgrade this camera because of not being able to install it closer because of certain reasons, and the lighting, which we can't install because of certain reasons.
Very difficult.
The cameras.
I wonder what those
These
reasons
camera here
mean.
is
We don't
much-
want to look under, we don't want to look what's above those ceiling
Just trying
tiles.
to be,
Yeah, let's,
But a part of the capital was to install a camera over here to get that full panoramic view of up front
One of-
and to get a better picture from back there from that camera. So upgrade that camera to a much
One of
higher.
the other things that you were observing was during that period of time when we could not find a part-timer and those cameras are on automatic, there was nobody there to change them and move them.
And that was phase two of that, is to have the personnel up there to do that. When that part-timer's not there or has something else to do, and part of that is I was looking to get a pool of part-timers, especially if we have multiple meetings, that we can work as a pool
Good.
and to try to cover as many meetings professionally with somebody there zooming and panning and giving you that picture-in-picture. But when you just see you guys up there not hear anything, there was actually nobody there to cover. And part of that was the elimination of overtime forced us to just deal with that in part-timers.
Okay. Just a question, Mr. Davis, which we're going to all bring up. I don't know where in the budget this is. I don't know if it falls under Dave's department or not,
What's that?
but the PA system here in this room.
Okay, that's actually fell under me. It wasn't originally, but because of sitting up there and hearing the echo, we've actually had the owner of the company here on Thursday,
Right.
who said it will have the sound itself resolved by next council meeting on the 21st. He's going to have his. He didn't understand the whole what was going on, so we brought him up to date, and other issues will be resolved according with the PA system. So, and we're also looking into the wireless or some way of having a person giving a presentation, have a microphone so
Right.
you can hear them on the TV.
Right.
And obviously when you're here, it's not as big as a deal as if you're watching on TV, and that's the point we're seeing, and he's looking into that for us also. So first he's going to take care of the sound system for us, and then he's going to look in expanding us to get the quality that we need for the TV
and they're not giving us a
station.
bill for that, are they?
No.
No, he said he wants to make things right for us.
He wants to make
used
some issues with
He had
the
never been
wiring.
here, his technicians had been here, and some of the things he saw, he wasn't terribly happy
And
about.
as the owner, he's taking empowerment and going to resolve it.
Well, let him know on a humorous note that the two bookends will be the people that meet with him if he doesn't resolve the issue.
Can they make me look thinner?
All right,
I'll chip in.
they're technologists, they're not magicians.
So that it has been, because of being taken on TV, we've kind of jumped in
I'll
and
make you look tall.
made that happen. So-
I wish they could.
Good, good. All right.
But when you do only see one picture in the picture, there's a lack of personnel to cover the meeting.
Now, just, I know I'm not supposed to talk about personnel here, but
Go ahead.
But he's going to
just-
do it anyway.
I'm going to do it anyway. It doesn't seem to me that difficult, or appear to me that it's hard to find a part-timer to handle this. I
Well,
mean, I
we have-
understand you don't want to just put, like, say me, for instance, up there, because I wouldn't know where to start, but
Well, I can address some of that.
there's, I know that, I believe that the law says that you must be 18 and over to work past a certain hour at night and so forth. So maybe a high school kid may be out of the question, I don't know. because we do go past 11 o'clock at night. But Howell High, I know obviously they have a million group of kids there who would love to gain the experience and participate in this. And also, I believe the county has some of the vocational schools in the county. They have such programs that you may be able to find somebody through the vocational schools that may want to work and gain experience while doing it and make a few dollars, obviously.
But actually, like I said, we do have a part-timer now that is working out, and we do have about 4 or 5 resumes that I've gotten
Oh, good.
that I would like to, expand and have a pool of part-timers. So that's first couple we had, those issues has at least been resolved as of today, so we're looking to progress further. But that was just to kind of explain to you why you would see certain things on the TV one time and not the other, was past issues. But as of now, we've had personnel to cover, except for one meeting, which was only having one person, having a family, and having another job. Obviously, there's certain times something may come up that you're not. That's why I thought a pool of part-timers, you would be able to have somebody call and say, hey, I can't make it, could you cover? That was part of what I came up with that would help with that.
I see we have, the police department has their own little program now, which I was able to catch part of it a couple of days ago, and that was very, very good. It was nicely done, and it was clear, the video was clear, the sound was good, and very informative. They did a good job, Officer Hill and the other officers. So that's good that we're expanding on that channel, because it's something that I think the people really, really look forward to, that don't get the opportunity to come out to all these meetings to be informed.
And there's more we'd like to do with the fire department and their house
Right.
and the things they do, but our bottom line is we're
Well,
limited
it's a
on our
work in progress,
resources.
like the
yeah.
mayor says, so it's a work in progress. But so far, I think it's, we're pleased with what at least myself, I'm pleased with what I've seen so far. We've come a long way from, like, the first day I saw it and we couldn't hear anybody or anything. I called the mayor and I says, Mayor, this is a disaster. We've come a long way.
He calls me just like residents do.
Well,
it's amazing.
We actually had a
I got a call from a
1970
constituent.
amplifier working, just to
great.
kind of resolve it, and then we actually had to go and.
I think Mr.
bother-
Davis just said that'd be breaking it in, 1970.
I called the mayor and I said, what are you going to do about it?
That's it.
Yeah, you're my mayor, what are you going to do?
That's it. Why should he be any different, right?
Why not, right?
He's my best friend. All right, we ready to go to capital?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
G1.
G1.
As opposed to last year, it's 4 small items.
That's what I just said.
Last year you got a lot, Dave. We got to admit.
Last year we had about,
It
You
was
did
needed,
good.
And I'm
You're
glad
right.
you guys
Absolutely.
seen the need for it.
Everybody was very jealous of your capital budget because I think everybody really took a beating except Dave Banowski. I hope they didn't pick on you at work because of that.
No, but in part of, like you said, going back just to one last issue with the personnel, implementing that is already way
Right.
out of timeline, just so you understand
Okay.
the process.
What page are we on?
G1.
G1.
Up the middle of the page, below the middle.
All right, upgrade disaster recovery phase 2. Wireless between town hall and revenue. I mean, the upgrading a disaster is self-explanatory. What is the wireless between?
Right now, we have 3 T1s from Revenue Building to here to interconnect those buildings for voice and for data. And as part of the disaster recovery, what came to mind was it's about a little over $1,000 a month we're paying for that. So for the installation of about $30,000 for a wireless shot from the police tower to the tower there, we could get a 2.5-year return of investment on that, and more than double our bandwidth too. So it's one, we'll be upgrading existing service and also getting return investment because we will not have to be putting out that $1,000 a month for T1 services.
One of the questions I have is, do we have enough trunk lines? Because I've experienced the issue. I know Councilman Showmaker has called me from time to time. I can't get through, or I'll physically call here and get it busy.
Well, part of that is our phone system we have now has been hit by lightning at least 3 times, and it's very flaky. Part of that last year's capital was a new phone system, which they're actually wiring the buildings now that we're going to implement a new voice over IP system. So now we won't be dealing with copper and lightning and issues like that, and be able to have a cost savings and modern technology in place. So as we're speaking, that is being worked on. But a lot of those issues are dealing with Verizon. We have a 100-pair trunk line coming in, and every time we call in a bad line, they find some other line and they just take that bad line to somewhere else. And that's what's been happening. So we want to eliminate the copper, go with fiber, and upgrade the system and eliminate those problems altogether.
Now, recognizing everything you just said makes perfect sense, and my 5-year-old probably would get it better because I'm not technology-wise. Will this eliminate the busy signal issue? What you
Well,
just
the busy
said?
signal, most of the time, the busy signal issue is a bad phone line in the front of the hunt group. That's
Okay.
good. So if 4500, which is an actual line, is bad, then that's the problem you're having. And you can't test that one unless you go down and put a butt set in the
All right.
file in the process. And also the voicemail system, and it's all integrated and it's been damaged and been replaced. We just had another issue with a lot of weekend work. One board just fell, and we had to spend a couple $1,000s to get that back up.
So
and
when the
running.
new phone system is in place, will we then be able to determine if we have enough trunk line capacity at the front end?
We're going to have more than ample because we'll actually have
Okay.
2 PRIs with failover
Good.
copper.
Okay.
One of the
But
problems
right
right
now,
now,
actually-
we have 19 trunks, I believe it is, coming in.
Actually, we have over 50, and we run busies on them, and we're coming with like 1/100% of busies to the voicemails. The problem is getting to the voicemail system. The Verizon and the equipment is really the main issue, and that will be gone once
Okay.
we get rid of the copper onto the
Good.
fiber.
TV station equipment, the 15,000, is that the new cameras you just explained to
Yes.
Councilman Malave? And what is a network rack?
Well, basically, it was like our room, server room, and our rooms as we're growing, getting more servers. Unless we, like right now, we have to keep the windows open just to keep it down to about 70 degrees. And it's come summertime, that's going to be, we have a lot of issues with heat. It's also the hottest part of the building, and we need to have racks, different servers, kind of upgraded, heating and cooling and electricity. So we need more electric brought up, and we need more AC, and we need to re-rack the systems.
Have any of you had the opportunity to visit the MIS department?
Oh, yeah, I've been in there.
The
several
closet,
times.
which
Have
is
you-
the server.
have you been in
I
the
don't know that
server?
I've seen the server closet. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would
But now
recognize
that
what that was.
outside on the table now has grown the servers.
I've seen you guys
And
have
You need, if you
equipment
get
on
a chance,
equipment
you
on
should go up and
tables.
take a look.
And with
Yeah,
all
I've
the
seen all that.
technology, it's going to grow
And
even
we
more.
walked in there in the mornings and it had to be above 90 degrees in that room, which is very critical to the equipment.
Yeah, summertime is a problem.
I mean, can you put an
Cooling.
added, I mean, just real simple, can you put a window air conditioner in there if
It's
you
in there.
needed to?
We have 2 running all the
Right,
time.
too.
So with those two
We-
running, it's still 90 degrees in there?
Yeah, because of the number of servers we have, and the heat they generate.
And the
it's a
building,
Well,
it's the hottest part of
And
the
also,
building. It's
it
the
also
hottest
is a
part of the
product of a
building.
101-year-old building with bad HVAC.
Well,
you
that's
know, and that
a whole
happens to
nother-
be
And-
the section of the building that gets the most heat.
It's a very confined space where the
Yeah.
servers are,
Okay.
that's the other
So
thing.
windows are nice in the winter, but we need to have something resolved by summer because our equipment has increased tremendously since last year.
When you mean resolved by, so this network rack provides the necessary coolant to keep the equipment cooler?
Yeah, the
Okay.
terminology I used on the original one, I actually use MIS room upgrade for technology, which means heating and electric.
And that's what this
also-
$10,000
Correct.
is? Okay.
Various
Anyone have any
different things.
questions on this piece of the capital?
Seems like a no-brainer.
Are there other areas in capital?
Not for Dave.
Thank you.
Now, I know that you oversee, for example, the installation of technology that other departments have put into their budget. Where are we, if you can give us a real quick update on the optical scanning of all of the engineering materials that we have done? And I mean, we approved it and went out to bid, or whatever the case may be. I
Well,
mean,
part of that piece is the EPC building. We're looking for one application, include all permits done in the township, including engineers. So everybody, land use, code enforcement, everybody's working off of one application. And they all tie in together down there, but they're all like walking papers downstairs. There's no one
Correct.
application to accomplish them. Once we actually sent the specs to Estita, you guys did the competitive bidding for the
Yes.
EPC. Once we actually have that and have specs, because those scannings will tie into that
Mm-hmm.
application. And at least from my professional opinion, I would like to have specs from an application that the scanning is going to tie into, kind of the horse before the buggy type of thing. I would like to have, the horse, and then we can pick the buggy to fit the horse.
so,
So where do you feel we are in that process?
I feel we're probably within, probably say 2 months, we would actually be close enough to have the EPC program and specs, and then can go out to competitive bid on the scanning. Because then we'll actually have true specs to put out, because we're dealing with, $600,000-$700,000 worth of scanning, and I don't want to put the specs down unless I truly
Of
know,
course.
at least me personally.
So the ultimate end game is still, in my non-technical observation of this, that filing cabinets and rooms full of paper that are, I've been on the tours where the floor is sagging and the weight is going to crush the building and planning and what have you. The end game is still to have all that stuff optically scanned, burned to CDs, so that what is now a room full of filing cabinets is a rack of CDs.
Actually, it'll actually be live data tied into other databases to
Good.
search.
Okay,
And that
so there's a
is-
local area network where you can tie into, it'll be on the database,
'Cause we wanna
and we
try-
eliminate the paper.
Sitting at their desktop, we want them to be able to look up all past
Good.
histories for that block and lot and make decisions right there
Without getting
with
up
them.
going to a file cabinet.
But
and
I
so
at least
the-
want to get that application in
Sure,
first.
that makes well, look, we have to trust your professional judgment on the best way to implement it.
But
We'll
we're
fund it
still
and
only
you
looking
implement
at a couple months for that application, and then we can start.
All right,
with
so we're a couple
scanning.
of months away from implementing what we approved last year to make all this
Or
happen.
at least getting the specs for
Getting the
that. Then we
specs.
can at least go out to bid on that and get that started.
Clarify, you're a couple of months away from going out to bid, not implementing it.
Yeah, we need, once we have the program for EPC, we'll have the specs to start the bid process.
Don't give
for
them the wrong
scanning.
timeline.
That's got to go out to bid.
It's got to go out, that's a big contract, that's got to go
And
out.
both of them have to go out, or one's competitive contracting, and once that is done, then we'll at least have the
Okay.
specs and pick that, then we can go out to bid on the scanning and get that going.
Any questions on this capital? Is there other capital pieces that are technology related we should ask Mr. Banowski's view on that people are asking, looking for? I mean, it's all.
If they have, I think Mr. Banowski's already aware of it.
Is
But
there
I
anything
don't,
you can-
I don't know what other people have put in their budget.
I don't see anything of
Okay.
GIS upgrades from engineering.
Does that flow through Mr. Banowski?
No.
No, it's going through.
Engineering?
Dave.
GIS is
Bill.
really
Bill.
unique to the engineering department right now.
Okay.
I mean, we work with them on as far as specs, but,
That's about it. There isn't,
Okay.
no.
Is there anything else from Mr. Banowski before we? Mr. Walsh, anything? Ms. Showmaker, anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Milano? Thank you
All right.
again, Mr. Banowski.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
And we have Ms.
And-
Schlegel from Recreation.
The last department of the day.
Okay.
That's the
Helene.
department of the day.
Yeah. I know, it's a big
Welcome,
deal.
Mrs. Schlegel.
It's a very big deal.
Page J18 begins Parks and Recreation. Also, there's capital on page G3.
J18? Okay. Is this something else?
G3.
Thank you.
I want to apologize for handing this at this late hour.
This
memo-
is not to be discussed today, it's an exhibit.
Yeah, I know that. I
Okay.
didn't realize, that's why it says what
Okay.
it says.
So we'll put it to the side for now?
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, so we're on J18, Parks
J18.
and Recreation. We'll start at the top, under your general expenses. So, Mrs. Schlegel, any opening remarks, comments, observations you want to share with us about your budget?
It is what it is, bare bones.
Okay.
It's less.
It looks like it's a 2% increase over what, in total, I mean, in your operating, you're down by 10%.
That's correct.
What can you attribute the reduction in? Better efficiencies, grass is growing more quickly, better seed?
A large point on the pencil of the manager and finance officer.
Well, at least she's candid. I don't know, Ann.
Speaking of the efficiency, though, I'm just a little bit, I just need to feel that I need to make this comment.
Sure.
I know we had the efficiency report that we have not seen yet.
Correct.
And my concern is that there's areas that possibly we should be more efficient in.
Yep.
That I'm not aware of. I would have liked to have that information.
Absolutely. You're gonna
In
get
case
it.
there is something that needs to be done in this budget cycle. I would not want to have to wait till 2007.
So that you hear that, we talked about this when we really first started, and you may not have been here yet at the time. The council and I literally got this handed to us Tuesday night. So what we would like to do is, as a group of the five of us, and Mr. Davis, kind of look at it, digest it, kind of just get familiar with it, and as we committed, and you were one of the department heads in the meeting, all right, good. And we were very upfront that we were going to completely share this unedited
Right.
with all of the leaders within the municipality that work for the township. We just wanted to see it and be able to get comfortable with it. We don't have a meeting this Tuesday.
No.
We do have a meeting on the 21st, and I think in fairness, there could be issues of sensitivity, personnel,
no,
what have you.
absolutely.
And my thinking is, we're going to talk about it on the 21st under the confines of executive, because it addresses certain personnel matters.
Sure.
And then the five of us need to come up with a policy on how quickly we can disseminate it to all of you. Our high-level thinking is that we may have another kind of meeting where it's, Mrs. Showmaker and I, or Mr. Walsh and Mr. Malave, whatever it is, with the same team of people we met with the first time to give it to you for your comments and observations. And then obviously we have Mr. Sunecki starting shortly thereafter. We're going to want him to dive into it as well, and then really determine under his direction and guidance what's the best way to begin to break through the report and begin to implement some of these things. We're at a bit of a disadvantage because it would have been great to have had that done
Right.
before we started the budget, but the
I
timing
just
just
want
didn't
you
allow
to
for it.
keep that in mind, because depending on obviously, what the findings are for
You guys agree with what I
efficiency,
said?
there may be other items.
I just want to
Yeah.
know one
That would help
thing.
that.
Do you have a magic ball that you look into? I'm reading your memo, and we won't discuss this, but I just so that you know. I just want to know if you
No,
have
I
insight to see the future.
Do I have a magic ball? No.
I'm reading this memo, and I had an opportunity to take some time to read this.
I haven't had a chance. Okay.
No, the reason that we can go down 10% is because, people rise above things, and sometimes they need to be appreciated. That's all I'll say on that subject.
Of course, okay. All right, you guys comfortable with how I described the distribution of this report? Everybody comfortable? Does that make sense, Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are we going to distribute the whole report to all the department heads, or just about their department?
That's a piece of when we talk about the five of us have to discuss it. That's
Well, you
that's
just asked
one
if
of
I was
the
comfortable,
yeah.
so
I mean
that's something I would
that's one of the
definitely
things. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I think
Okay.
we need to clearly, if you are the director of recreation, you need to see the recreation. I'll give you
That's all
my
I'm concerned
opinion,
with.
and we don't want to
Okay.
get into this now. But my brief opinion is, as a management team, there should be disclosure to share best practices and ideas.
Okay.
Because when I don't have staff anymore, thank goodness, but when I had staff, I would share things that didn't necessarily apply. You may have been a salesman and you may have been an account manager, but I want my team to know what's sort of going on in totality, so that
Right.
maybe Mrs. Schlegel may say to somebody in a different department, well, we implemented that and here's how it worked. I think, we have to work that out among us, but I'm open to sort of a full disclosure.
I truly believe that you are correct in that you need to, in order to have an effective team, they need to know what's going on in a global sense, not just restricted to their area.
And in fairness, I think we also need to hear from our new manager to get his perspective on, the adequate distribution of this, because ultimately, that's the team leader when it comes to the department head. So the five of us have to integrate the new manager's thinking around the distribution of this as well. And,
Oh, I can appreciate
And we're going to
that.
certainly take that direction, simultaneously.
It's just I want you to remember when reviewing the budget that there may be additional things that will improve the efficiency of the department, that the professionals felt would be a help. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Do you,
Do a great job.
do you want to walk us through anything in there at all?
Nope. Unless you have questions.
Only before we get into the hilarity of the capital,
go.
maybe we should do cultural arts and do the rest of the operating.
That sounds good.
you
I
know,
agree with
and
that.
then
Okay, so
we're not
what
flipping
page is
pages.
that?
The next page.
Next page, cultural arts also falls underneath Colleen.
Okay, cultural arts, no increase. We had a lot of discussion last year around cultural arts, as you recall, and I'm appreciative, and I know our recreation liaison is as well, the great integration between cultural arts and your staff, and I think that's really been a big help. Are they adequately funded and prepared for the busing issues and the lighting issues? And I mean, their program is only gaining more momentum. Are you comfortable this budget supports that?
Well, I don't know if you are aware, I'm sure you are aware, but the busing situation, need to thank Mr. Davis, who has
Yes,
reached out to
the
a private
sponsorship.
corporation for sponsorship for the busing, so it does not reflect that, obviously. We've been
But
lucky
We're
enough.
going to maintain that, so
Right,
we're
now,
not going to.
I've
whether,
made contact with the same grantor the last time, and, as last time, and it appears that they'll do it again.
we do have, the only thing that you don't see in here, which, you know, you need to be aware of, though, is there are overtime issues with the cultural arts, and you don't see that because it's absorbed by either myself and the Department of Public Works. So those are the things
Walk us
that
through
you
when
are
mean there are
not
overtime
seeing.
issues. I mean, we've eliminated overtime, as you know, for the most part.
Well, for the
Right.
most part, but
Right,
you
but
left a...
right,
We
but-
left a discretionary
right.
amount of overtime for the
Chunk.
manager to
So you
divvy
need
out.
to be aware,
Divvy out
though,
is
you
like-
need to be aware of these situations. For example, all of the cultural arts events are done on an overtime,
Because they're at night.
right? So they're either on the library on a Sunday afternoon,
Right.
which is double time, or they are done on a Monday evening, which is a time and a half situation. And you also have to remember that according to your union contract, there's, you know, some minimum time that you need to pay people contractually. So I just, you know, you need to know that that's what's happening.
Okay. All right.
Well, we do that because, you know, we know that the council has placed a lot of importance on this program. It's very well received in the community. And personally, I think it's worth the investment to have that program.
There's no question.
And it makes more sense than, you know, not having it, that's for sure.
But just so you get the
Yeah,
the
you need to
global
understand
idea
how
of
it
the,
works.
you know,
Right.
So if you're going to have the program, you must have the overtime.
that's correct.
I mean, the Festival of Choirs, which is the biggest attended event that they have in a year, it's a Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of when they provide their service.
Yes.
Well, no, in the summertime, they
No,
have
in
the
the
monthly.
summertime, it's actually
The first Monday, isn't
more than that.
Yeah, it's every Monday.
Yes, it's
in the
weekly
summertime,
in the
the
summer.
concert series.
And then in the wintertime, it's monthly. So the
Okay.
winter, it's Sundays monthly. In the summer, it's weekly Monday evenings.
Okay.
Are we ready to, are you okay with the operating budget, Mayor? Council okay?
Yeah.
One more line item on page J20 on the top, celebration of public events.
Yeah.
It's a separate line item that pertains to Halloween.
J20,
Yes.
Right.
Is that Howell Day?
celebrate, is this fireworks and what have
Right.
you? Does this budget
Easter egg
include-
hunt,
Okay.
you know.
Does this include fireworks for Howell Day? I'm sorry, fireworks for the 4th of July?
Yes, it does.
It is in there. And haven't we been able to defray that with sponsorships?
Yes, we have,
So this reflects
right.
that being offset?
Elaine, does this include fireworks for Howard Day?
No, it does not.
What would be the additional amount that you would need to put?
Well, generally fireworks are about $10,000.
About $10,000.
Right. You know, I mean, certainly if we're looking to do fireworks on Howell Day, you know, we could, I mean, well, of course, we'll look for sponsorships, but I can't promise you that.
I know that.
Have we had fireworks?
We have in the past.
In the
We have in
past,
the
yeah.
past, the last couple of years, I think we've gotten away
That's
from it
correct.
because of budget cuts. I remember last year specifically, me being there after, when it got dark and even, although we had a very quality performing, people were just storming out of the park. They did not stay. But if you gave them something to look forward to after the performance, like fireworks, I think that they would stick around. And a lot of I remember kids coming up and asking, "Are we having fireworks?" So I think people kind of was looking forward to that, and it didn't happen. I would recommend and suggest that we would at least consider putting the additional funds in the Sears budget to provide fireworks at Howard Day, and hopefully we can get a corporate sponsor. But if not, at the very least, so that we wouldn't have to utilize the monies, obviously. But at the very least, I think that we should put the the monies for the
I-
fireworks in there.
I agree that everyone loves fireworks, definitely. But you also, I just want to tell you one thing, though, that would increase your police overtime. I just want to give you the picture, that's all. I want you to know that, because then at that point, you're taking a longer day.
Well, we pay that on July 4th
So-
anyway, correct? When we do fireworks on
We're
July.
talking about a holiday, though.
I'm talking about
I
how.
know, but I
yeah.
mean-
Yes, we do.
I mean, it's no different, is what I'm saying.
Oh, no different, but when you're
It's-
looking
it's-
at it, you know.
It's the cost of doing business, if that's,
Right.
if that is
Right.
the business.
And I agree that there should be the fireworks. And I'll tell you this, if I could probably fund half of it, but sponsor-wise,
Understand?
but, no, I can't
Do you-
promise you
do
the
you want to?
full.
Well,
I think you need to put the whole amount in.
Right.
And if you get
We
a
need to put
sponsor,
the
you
whole
don't
full
expend
amount
it.
in, and hopefully we can obtain a sponsor, even
Right.
if it's just half of it.
So you're looking for an additional $10,000 under
Well, Ms.
celebration
Well-
of event-
Councilman
events?
Mulligan,
Yeah,
I guess.
Right?
I'm suggesting that. I mean, it's up to you guys, but I would like to see it in there.
July 4th was a nice event for Howell. A lot of, how many people did we have the July 4th?
Oh, it was
Oh.
huge.
Yeah, thousands.
So
I
you're-
mean,
4,000 or 5,000?
Probably about,
No
I would
more.
say about 4,500, sure. Easy.
So you want to put in, at this point, fireworks for Howell
Howell
Day.
Day.
As well.
In addition to the 4th of July
Mhm.
as the cap to the event. All right. Do you have the, I had to excuse myself for a moment.
Do
you
I have the
an
money?
estimate?
No. Yeah,
do you-
10,000.
So it's $10,000. Can we, I mean, just as an aside, I know you guys are keeping track, can we put that as something to be considered to be added in? And I think we have to look at the whole budget,
Right.
obviously before we start taking in and taking
Understand.
out. But if we keep the running log, that's certainly
And
something
I may be
think-
able to negotiate with the company down a little bit, because he would be providing us fireworks for 2 days, not 1 day, We have some avenues to look at there
Understand.
also.
But at the very least, you're looking $8,000 to $10,000
That's
it's going
correct.
to cost.
That's correct.
At least 5.
And hopefully with Mayor, I don't know if you heard, we're going to try to obtain obviously a sponsor for that, or sponsors for that event. So they, maybe we don't have to use it, but we have to put it in just in case we need to use it.
To get sponsors for fireworks.
And I also wanted to, I did want to remind you that we had,
Okay.
you are going to be introducing or voting on the increase in the recreation fees. So
Right, that's
that the
coming.
income that will be coming in from recreation, should you pass that, okay, will be a wash, any of the programs, not the special events, so not your Easter egg hunt and your fireworks and things like that,
Right.
but any of the recreation programs, including the summer recreation program, will be a wash. So you will be getting more income.
That's what we spoke of last year.
We
that
did.
I was
Okay.
gonna
So we
implement
have
that.
to, once we pass that, there'll be an accounting for the increased revenues.
Right.
Which will have to be updated to be reflected in this budget.
That's correct.
Okay, good. We ready to go to capital?
Yes.
Where are we in capital?
G3,
I
What is
love
it?
you.
That's.
G3.
I see it 22 or 25.
$22
something.
million.
G3?
This young lady has been trying to get a new recreation building as long as I've been here.
That's
But
correct.
you'll notice
I-
in the other column next to it, there.
It says zero.
It says zero.
says
It
zero.
always says zero.
Well, now that we're back out of fantasy land and we're back in Howell, we can,
Well,
I'd like to discuss
You know
this
what,
22
one
million.
day,
I
one
tell you-
day,
I'll
one
underwrite
day,
it.
someone sitting up there is going to say yes.
Well,
One day.
you know what, Helene, you got my support on this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman
you
Millar.
do.
Thank you, thank
And
you.
I think that if this was to
Mine
be
too.
put out,
Councilman Walsh?
if this was to be put out to a vote, and it was presented properly to the residents,
correct.
that it has a very good, now, this is after the revamp is done. Let me just make that clear.
You have his support on a caveated basis.
I want to see what my revamp
He'll
comes back.
give you the fine
with.
print,
That's it.
follow-up memo. All right, let's get into it. The tree and brush shredder, 23,000.
That's actually
Is that yours?
an attachment for the skid steer, which is, you don't know what a skid steer is maybe, but it's kind of like a little machine that you hook things onto.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's gone from me for a minute, but,
Oh, are you talking a little bucket loader?
Yeah, what's it,
Or
not
a
a...
chipper?
No, it's, she's right, there's a name for it. It's this tiny little,
We have the little front-end loader
Right.
type of thing.
I'm
Anyway.
allergic to tools, Jeff. Please don't look at me while you're explaining.
With all the trail work, the parks, like the new park that we're putting in, the trails that we're putting in at Oakland Park, the greenways, this kind of, attaches to this machine.
it's a front-end loader that's no
What
bigger
is
than
the
a,
name?
than a
This is
mid-sized
gonna
car,
kill me
really.
now. Oh, my
You've seen
God.
it, you've
Yeah.
seen it out here,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Now, once you shred this, is this, are we recycling, are we reusing this chips for
Yeah,
anything?
it's wood chips, yeah.
Wood chips.
Right.
What are we doing now?
What are we doing now? That's a good question. What we're doing now is when we can, we attempt to get assistance from the state. The fire people come in and forest fire people.
Okay.
I don't know the exact name of the organization. We try to get them in, but of course we're at their mercy. Then we try to get them as often as possible. But what happens there is that slows us down because, for example, now, if we want to move on the park, for example, the park in Freewood Acres, okay? So we're at the mercy of another agency. When they have time, when they, and they're great, please. They're absolutely wonderful. They come out and they help us, and they're wonderful when they can.
Of course.
But sometimes our schedules aren't the same, and we need to do it today, and, that type of thing.
Okay.
90,000 for the call box. I know you've asked for this.
What's the
Right, and actually,
feelings on that? Is that in or out?
What
The brush
Brush shredder.
shredder. Well, me personally, I still want to sort of digest how this fits
Right.
in with the overall requests. for
Well, I'll
the
mark it
expenditures.
okay for now.
We'll leave it in.
'Cause in what we do-
We know we're going to go back and revisit
We gotta go
all
back
this
and-
stuff.
We always do.
It's not,
Yeah.
if it's not a definite no, we'll leave it in for the time being.
always we have the opportunity to discuss it, that's all.
Yeah, we need to talk about
Yeah.
it. This 90,000 for the call boxes, the
This-
emergencies and the
This has been
parks.
coming up every year, I know, and now, Jeffrey, I recall you said last year, or maybe Mr. Davis, one of you guys said that you believe it's actually mandatory that we have call boxes in the parks, God forbid something happens, so that
Well,
there's
the
a phone
insurance-
available to
Joint
whoever's
insurance, yeah.
utilizing our parks. I mean, has the state or county, whoever's making this a mandatory thing, have they considered now, since everybody, and I mean everybody from 70-year-olds and up have cell phones nowadays? I mean, do we really need to put this in the systems, in the parks?
Well, the problem is, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, with this comes from the insurance company, which I'm the
The
JIF
JIF has
commissioner.
has recommended.
I recommended it because heaven forbid that one time, no one has a cell phone when someone needs help on the
And
park.
you need 911.
There is no way to contact 911.
We have no phones
Um,
in any of our
The
parks.
phone company will
Oh,
not
just Oak
leave.
Glen, that's it.
The phone company has been pulling the pay phones out because they don't pay.
Right.
There's not enough activity in the parks, and they have physically removed the phones from the parks, and we can't get them put back in. So if that one time when Murphy's Law hits and no one's around there with a cell phone and somebody breaks a leg or somehow gets injured and needs help, there is no way to call them. We're depending on everybody having cell phones, and the insurance company is not comfortable. I don't think there's a state mandate, there is not a law mandate that says we have to have it, but the insurance company has been pressuring us that we really need something there.
We
Now,
we
Mr.
just
Tim
need
Cummings.
something that'll communicate to the police department.
Okay.
That's the problem. We don't have telephones there.
Two comments, Mayor, if I might. First of all, if the insurance, first of all, let me just make the remark that, and I'm sure everyone's aware of on the Garden State Parkway, they took all of the call boxes off. There are no more call boxes on any of the Garden State
I don't
Parkways.
remember any being there. The 195 still has them.
Well, there was a big article in the newspaper that
I
they were
wasn't aware of
pulling
that
all
either.
the call boxes off there. Number two is, if JIF is actually requesting that, have they given you any kind of idea what if in fact savings we're going to get on our insurance premium?
There's no savings. This is a
There's no savings,
reduction in
which is avoid
anticipated
lawsuits.
loss.
Yeah.
It's a loss control mechanism.
But can I just say one thing? I will tell you this, if you had, and I know that this is a dirty word, but I'm going to say it anyway, If you had park rangers, okay, you would not need call boxes because you are patrolling your park areas.
You just
okay?
talked yourself out of that park ranger because a park ranger long-term, $90,000 is
Yeah,
a
let's
is
No,
a
no, no.
one-time
Let's-
investment.
No,
Investment
but,
for-
well, my point is that in our parks, there is no one there.
Right.
That's all I'm saying, is that in our parks, there's no one there.
All right.
In
And there's no
fairness, the only parks
phones.
that I really ever frequent would be Liberty Oak Park.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Turkey Swamp Park too. Now, they do have, there's a
They're
building there.
manned.
So
Yeah, they're
that's a
manned.
little different there.
Yeah.
But I can't recall seeing any park rangers over there.
Oh, they're manned,
And are they?
absolutely.
Oh,
Liberty, is there? I
Absolutely.
can't-
There's
maybe I'm
someone
there at the
there,
wrong times.
there's some, especially
I see
Turkey Swamp, there's
police
someone
going
there
through
all the
there.
time.
The Turkey Swamp Park is different, you're
I
right.
mean, it's a good issue to discuss. We want to make certain that when someone's in our parks, that they can feel safe.
Right.
We have to balance the expense of this versus other requirements the township has. I
No,
don't know that we're
I
in a position to
understand.
decide on
But
this
I do want you to
today,
know
but
that
we got to
we need-
talk about it.
I do want you to know we've had 2 police issues late at Echo Lake. Okay, we run a program there. We have a Tai Chi program. This particular week, we had police needed to come because 2 people got out of the car while the women were there doing the Tai Chi, throwing rocks at the building. Okay, and then approximately, it was during the summertime, there was someone got out, it was a sexual issue, okay, that the police were called on. Now, she did have her cell phone, okay, so she was able to call them, but, I mean, we need to understand that we don't have anyone there, and these people are there, and, you know, these issues do come up.
Okay.
So I just want you to be aware of that.
I think it's safe to say it needs more discussion and deliberation. I
So
don't
it's
think we're in a position to
definite maybe?
take it in or leave it out at this time. Agreed?
I don't know, nothing, I have nothing on this.
We always do go back and discuss.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to go back and look at capital.
I'll leave it in
No,
there.
I appreciate
We
that.
see
Okay.
the entire picture.
Just consider it.
Projector and sound system, movies in the park, yes. We've talked about this, I recommended, we put in this movies in the park as an added feature. What
We're
kind
gonna
of
have to add
equipment
more
do we need?
overtime with that.
Well, we have to talk
Well,
about it, we have to understand
right.
what the,
It's gonna be
what
nights
the whole
again,
program
weekends.
is. Yeah, but if you're in the summertime, I mean, depending on when we do it, that has to get factored in. I don't know, it's a good question, we got to
Because
figure out.
nights, you're not gonna show movies during the day.
We have program summer rec people, right?
Right, but this is a tough one because I don't know how it's going to, the overtime may be an issue because you may need someone there who knows what they're doing. You may have some labor issues. It's a touchy one. We'd have to work on that, and I don't want to tell you there's not going to be any overtime.
My
That's
original
something we gotta
intention
think.
with this, very briefly, was that we would have a sponsor for however many times we do this. So potentially, PNC Bank sponsors the Movies in the Park series, and they have an evening, and whatever the expenses are for that evening, they would pick up, which would include whatever personnel times would be there. But in exchange for that, they have an opportunity to market their brand and their product, and they can have somebody there to try and get you to open up a checking account. They can hang a big banner, whatever the case may be, so that, in theory, we can have this become a cost-neutral kind of program. I mean, that's how I would like to see us come up with that.
Well,
Now, I mean, it'll be for Ms. Schlegel to engineer how that will work, but talk to us about this $15,000 you need. What will this give you?
This will give us the projector and a sound system. We already have a screen that I hope is still intact, but that'll give us everything that we need to actually go forward with that.
Okay, so this would enable us to do movies in the park, so to speak.
That's correct.
Okay.
Pick up with plow.
Yeah, pick up with a plow, $27,000.
Okay, that's to replace a 1995 three-quarter ton pickup. Right now, it's about ready to fall apart from the rust because what happens is obviously we use these to plow. Okay, this happens to be the foreman vehicle, also used to plow salt, all that. It's ready to go. am anticipating that the mechanic will be taking it off the road very, very shortly.
We
It's
spoke
a
about the
1990, it's a 1995.
Okay.
It's rusting out is pretty basically what's happening.
So this is a replacement, I mean, getting back to sort of a vehicle maintenance plan.
Right.
Is this in the plan, if we were to inventory, and I know this list is out there, at least I hope it is, there's a list of all the trucks and the years they are and the
Overall
anticipated
return.
shelf life with miles and wear and tear.
Okay.
Is this the one that's coming up?
This would be, yes. I will say this, that we are actually, and I'm only going to speak for the Parks Department, that we're in pretty good shape with vehicles right finally, so I appreciate that. This is one of the last ones. I would say I might have one other issue, but this is really,
Just the most pressing out
Right.
of the list.
Okay.
right.
All right, well, we're not ready to make a decision on it yet, but at least we know that's what you're looking at. 2 replacement trailers?
Right, this is to replace a 1983 and a 1985.
I saw the trailers, Mayor. They're
Those were good years.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Mine was really good year.
yeah, it's just broken out.
I mean, we need to start getting real, like,
Now, what is it, I mean, when you're talking about trailers, are these the physical trailers that stay still and you're
no.
using them for
Oh,
equipment?
no,
or
no, no, the pull equipment.
To pull
Right,
equipment, okay.
Transporting equipment.
Okay.
They don't make trailers like they used to, you know
Oh,
that.
yeah, I know
They're only
that.
lasting
You're right
22
about
years
that.
now.
You are right about that.
And what is a top dresser?
What is a top dresser? Okay, that reintroduces material into your property, all right? So right now, we use 2 guys and 2 shovels, so that takes about, a lot of hours compared to the top dresser where you put the, whether it's infield mix or whatever in the top dresser, and you actually have a machine that puts it in instead of 2 men with a shovel.
So what's the return on our investment? If we get you this equipment, will they now be able
Labor.
to go do something else?
Right, exactly.
You have any
Exactly.
sense of what? You don't need a less person.
No,
I only did that to make sure you were listening.
I wasn't listening.
Just paying attention.
All right, so
Basketball courts in Oakland Park.
efficiencies. Well, you've got a splash
I just want to
park.
mention
What-
something.
what-
Wait,
we have
before we
Howell
get to that,
Splash Park?
I know my rear mount rototiller was taken out. I know that was taken out. I just want to mention, because and it's okay, it's okay, but I do want you to know
Let's move on.
what we're using for the rototiller. One of my guys had a rototiller at home that's like this big that we're pushing. I just wanted to mention that.
Did you tell them how much we appreciate that?
Yes, I did.
That's good.
I just thought I'd mention that.
All right.
Okay, splash
But
park.
hold on. So you're saying we don't have one. We're actually borrowing one of our township employees' devices to do this?
Oh, yeah, but I just want you to know. It's
How often
okay.
we use it, though? How often?
How often?
It's probably
Oh,
sitting in our
2
house.
seasons 2 seasons a year. But I just wanted you to know that. So I just want you to appreciate where we're coming from here, that's all.
Can we, can,
I mean, the only
Splash
reason I say
park,
how often
that's
use it,
next.
because you can rent one pretty inexpensively.
No, yeah, but we're talking about,
Oh, okay, I got you.
So, let's come to the bottom.
all right. Well, before can we go to the splash park? Let's
We
just try and get
certainly
through
can.
this. What is the splash park, Helene?
a splash park is, I don't know if you've ever seen them. They are
big deal.
those little parks, it's definitely up and coming.
I've seen it.
They
Okay,
have
now
the
I know what you're talking
mushrooms that come down with water, they have little
You step
sprinkler
on-
things.
Step on the water, shoots out.
Right, exactly. They're the funnest thing ever.
about. Yes, they are.
And since we
They're a
don't
lot
have
of
a
fun.
pool,
Do you know what business I'm in for a living?
Insurance.
Do you realize that
Oh,
you just frightened
stop.
the hell out of
Oh,
me?
stop. It's safer than a pool.
They can't
Can't drown.
Now, if they're on rubber. it's
Yes,
rubber.
that's
It's not
correct.
slippery. See, I've been-
Be a big hit.
They have them at Epcot,
Oh,
where you
yeah.
step on it and the water
Right,
shoots
right,
up.
right. They'd be-
Kids love them.
Would be a big hit.
Come, look, you turned down the 22 million.
Listen.
I think this is a good concession.
Yes, I could not, I happen to like them. I have small kids.
Right.
They love these things. But seriously, I think we do need to, before
Okay.
we do this,
Yes.
I think we have to talk to
No.
our joint insurance fund. There's no question there are a set of specifications
It would be no
around.
more than a playground.
I think the introduction of water absolutely adds a different element of risk. Anytime that there's water involved, it will add a different element of risk. You have the issue of the pipes under the ground
Right.
break, and then there's a flooding condition. You have the, believe me, I do
I
health benefits,
understand.
not
I
property and
understand.
casualty, but I know, not very much, but enough to know we need to evaluate the additional risk
Except
exposure.
I
There's an
just,
insurance meeting on the 22nd, and we'll bring
Okay.
it up then.
Let's
but
see
I
what they
wouldn't
say.
be quality recreation director if I didn't ask for a
It's a great
splash
program.
park for the
Absolutely.
residents of the township.
Now, where do you plan on putting this?
At a $22 million building, that's correct. We have a couple sites. I would probably, if I had to say off the top of my head, I would say possibly Deerwood, because of the property that's already there. It's, you know,
I'm just asking.
Everything's over there. We don't have a stinking thing in the north
Hey,
end
we
of
don't
the
have
house.
tennis courts yet.
All right, well, we could fight about where we're going to put it after we decide what
Right,
we're
I'm
going to
just-
have. It's a good question.
I was just wondering.
we have other, you know,
It
I'm
should be
just saying.
somewhere sort of centrally located for
Right.
everybody. We'll leave that to you to recommend. So for now, I mean, are we agreeable? We want to at least further consider this?
Yeah, I would.
I would leave it in there for now with a, like,
think you should.
a red question mark on it,
And-
red.
and
Why is it a red question mark?
What I
Because it's a question mark.
because it's a question mark.
I would ask maybe for two follow-ups.
Sure.
Could we potentially, A, the insurance is one, B, this will attract, this could be a very significant piece of recreation for us. Can we consider attracting a sponsor for this? I don't really care if it's called the Central State
Yes.
Mortgage Splash
I
Pad.
will answer that, yes.
You know, I'm just using it as an example. I mean, to the extent we can get 4 or 5 people to put their brand on the top of it, this is not a huge investment. So if we went
Right.
to 8 or 10 or 20 businesses and asked them to each kick in, you know,
Or
$5,000 or $10,000.
100, give me 1,000, right.
The
Mhm.
White
But
Castle mushroom,
we
something
could-
like that.
Right.
Listen, the White Castle mushroom, the naming rights of things are could be significant. So could
Okay,
you
that's
look
fair.
into that?
Absolutely.
Those two things? Okay.
Absolutely.
Anything
Now,
else
the
on it?
mayor mentioned these things, I think is coming. Me owning the company? It's how I prefer to spend my money now.
Absolutely.
No, I
First
can
time
appreciate that. I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah,
I think
brand and the franchise of your brand is significant, so we should leverage that. We happen to have some big brands
Mm-hmm. Okay.
that are businesses in the community, and they may
And
want
more
to make
coming.
that, and more coming.
I think Mr. Watch is ready to write up a check for 100,000.
Let's not get excited.
Too excited.
Let's not put him on the spot. All right,
I'll
replace-
debate it in my
Listen,
budget.
You need 20 businesses in Howell Township to donate $5,000.
It can be
Right.
done.
And it could be done.
No,
I know two
I-
businesses that would do it.
The
I
two favorite
definitely-
words in my vocabulary when it comes to municipal budgets, cost neutral.
I know,
Next.
All right, basketball courts, 90,000 at Oak Glen.
it's a mess. We've done Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid, we're done. I mean, I have nothing else to tell you.
All right. So you're telling us that is something that has to be,
Right,
there's no
no,
alternatives. Okay.
we're done.
The bottom track mower. Now,
Okay, all of these
The
things
bound trucks.
will stay on site.
But my question is, are we maintaining that site yet?
No.
No, no, no.
Are we
No.
going to be maintaining that
We
site
will
this
be
year?
when
Well,
it's finished.
Here's the
I mean-
thing. You're planning on opening in fall 2007. I know what you're going to say. If you're going to open in fall, we're going to get this money. When we get this money, it's going to be August. Okay? Then you're going to put out for bid. Then we're going to maybe get the equipment in February at the earliest.
Of 07.
February of '07, right. So if we don't put it in here, and you're planning to open in the fall of '07, it's not going to happen. Now, if you're in reality and plan to open in the spring of 2008, then you could put it off for a year.
Okay. Well, that's what we need to know. That was.
I mean, I'm going to be
that's
honest with
right.
you.
so if we open in '07, you're saying it's got to be in this budget?
This year.
Right, because we wouldn't get it
Right.
Okay.
in time.
And I think the plan is to open in '07. Is that not the plan?
That's your plan?
Well, it's not about
Wait a
me.
second.
It's what can
It's the
we
same as
reasonably
Friday.
I
implement?
think what you're getting, in a not-so-subtle way, is that she doesn't agree with your plan, that '07 is unrealistic, fall of '07, that it should be spring of '08.
That's correct.
So we just saved yourself I meant with my question. That's what I wanted, that's why I
Well,
wanted.
Well, I mean,
All we're doing is we're
Yeah, I
delaying the
mean-
inevitable.
We had.
I just want you to know
You have
the
to be realistic.
situation, that's all. And I'm not sure you're
We
going
had
to
this discussion the other night at the rec advisory meeting, and it was presented by Ms. Schlegel that 08, spring of 08, it's more practical. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I'm only one of 5, that this is a big task, a big project. I'd rather take an additional 6, 8, 9 months and do it the right way than rush it and,
Agreed.
you know.
If you tell us
so-
you can't do it, then
Well, I just think that we're advertised, correct?
Well, that's phase one.
Right, for phase
There's
one.
5 phases.
Right. We're opening up those bids at the end of the month, all
Right.
right? This is all outside, you know.
That's that.
24th, I believe.
And I do know when you do, right, that's correct. And what happens is when you do projects like these, this is a major project, 5-phase project, we're talking a large project. You know you're going to run into that it's great when we think we're going to go, everything's going to go fine, it's going to go perfectly, but that's not reality in a project this size. You know something's going to come up, some obstacle somewhere along the line, and I think you need to be prepared for that. And I think that we're better saying, okay, let's think about that for a minute, and
Maybe-
let's be a little bit, a little more realistic, and
So maybe the follow-up is you can come back with a more firm timeline around what you think is reasonable, so you
Okay.
don't ruin the fields.
Right.
The only thing that I would ask, and I'd ask this more through the recreation liaison, is that we open up a realistic dialogue with Mr. Krebs and Mr. Kanelsky, who are the president and the vice president of the federation, because they have taken the lead role, as we know, on behalf of the soccer organizations and the girls' softball through this process. So
Plus
just so
we're-
that they know.
right. In this project, you're relying on private contractors, so that's where
Yeah, but I thought spring of '08 is what you're recommending.
no, I'm recommending that. But I know that the council
And we-
had
We
wanted
had-
to open in the
Fall
fall
of
of
07,
'07,
right.
and I don't believe that's going to be realistic.
And our customers have been asking, as
Right.
Helene will tell you, we've had people that I just mentioned who have encouraged that they think it can be done. So I just want to, I think we need to be open and candid with them around your professional opinion that perhaps it can't, so that we set a very realistic expectation in their view.
Right.
So is that all right? Do you think we can have that discussion with them? Absolutely. Okay. So then these can theoretically come out,
Right.
unless something
I mean,
miraculous
unless you have a
happens.
windfall and want to put them in this year, then that would be fine. But
Never
what-
any windfalls.
No, but my point is, in the climate that you're in right now,
Okay.
Right.
you can delay this.
Okay. What else do you have in capital?
Well, since you don't want to address the $22 million thing.
Well, I think, I mean,
For clarity, we're going to defer these bottom pieces
I
of
would
property
defer
to
them.
Well,
07, I think.
only until we
Seems that
determine when, for sure, we're
I
looking.
mean, do we all
to-
agree with that? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
I think
Yeah,
for
it's like-
planning purposes, I think we can defer them till '07 budget.
Okay.
So they're on board for the '08 opening. and-
Good.
Well, because, right.
Yeah, but if
and-
we're opening in '07, they have to be in this year's budget.
Right.
That's the difference.
I don't think that's going to happen, but you know what, maybe a little bit of more discussion with,
Talk to Bill and
Mark and-
RV.
right,
I think we have to be
exactly.
realistic.
Yeah, we just want to level set the expectation. There's a lot of people excited about this.
I know that.
It's the biggest recreation thing, short of a building, that's going to happen in
Right.
this
Well,
town
since
in
Deerwood Park.
30 years.
Right.
Right,
Oh,
since Deerwood Park.
Deerwood Park was
So
the
we
biggest.
want to do it right.
Yeah.
We're excited to get it done, but we're going to get it right. Okay. What else do you have in,
That's it.
That's it,
That's it, huh?
correct.
anything else that you need to share
Okay.
with us, talk with
Can
us
we,
about?
can we digress a second
On rec?
on rec?
Okay.
Since we're going to cut out $110,000, I think we should go back and talk about this piece of equipment, because I really don't understand why a corporation is borrowing a piece of personal equipment from a township employee.
Well, they gave it to us, like, pretty much.
So it was a
but-
donation.
Well, yeah,
So,
but it's a walk behind, okay? You need to understand that, it's like when we discuss the, 16-foot deck mowers and things like that.
It's not-
you need to decide that it's labor intensive, because it's the same thing. You're talking about a walk behind
Cost-effective. it sounds like
rototiller
fun.
as compared to something that's 3 times the size and twice as fast. You know that labor-wise, we're strapped. These are the little things that are going to make a difference in becoming more efficient
I
as
guess-
far as
See,
labor
I
goes.
guess I can be, I'm a little more compassionate in this because of the type of business that I
Right.
operate. And I consider this in my business a small tool.
Right, that's
My
correct.
small tools are a must to be
Right.
replaced for efficiency. So
Right.
maybe I'm seeing it from a different perspective, but
I
I
don't
just
have a
wanted to
problem
make
with
that point.
I have no problem.
On
with
both of those.
Okay.
Mine's
I
a
mean,
good
my
amount.
top dresser is by far the priority, but the rototiller, I mean, you have a Parks Department operating without a,
It's
We're talking about a $4,000 item.
We're talking about
You
the
put it in. Good. So we're off
4190
the
and
41
the
that's
sod
that's
cutter.
back
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we're going to, what's that?
Oh,
He's trying-
I got you.
Trying to get them both.
Yeah.
And the
I
top
got
The
dresser.
Sod
no, the
cutter.
top
dresser's
dresser's
in
in there. I'm talking about the sod cutter and the rotary tiller. That's what two things we're talking about. That's
Oh, the tillers are back in.
okay, so we're,
But,
then,
I
so we
mean, it's not
have.
going to affect us, this budget one way or another, really. We're talking about a $200 down payment, right? That's going to,
Well, we need to discuss that. Yeah, but.
We got to look at the bond rate. We got to look at where we are from a debt ratio.
yeah.
5%.
All right.
All right.
Anything else, Ms. Schlegel?
done with
No,
the link?
thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your time on
You out
Saturday.
here 11:30.
Can't believe
Mr.
it.
Mayor,
We're
I
on
have
schedule.
the one issue that I have to bring up to you. It's in reference to a vehicle that the Construction Code Department was using. It was taken off the road. Extensive interior rot and corrosion on the right side, front and rear. It was inspected by the chief mechanic, and it's a hazard, so that's why it's been taken off the road. This creates a problem because it's an inspector's vehicle. I have loaned them the manager's vehicle temporarily, which is the tracker.
Is that not good for them?
It's a
It's
a box for
it's a
passenger
toy.
service. It's a toy.
a four-wheel drive toy. It's not going to last under, when
Why
they
do we
go
buy it?
digging through the fields and
Well,
four-wheel
let me-
drive.
let me finish
It's
with-
not going to last long.
Let me finish what I have to say. There's, Jeffrey's identified $35,000 in surplus from last year. We can get a
Capital surplus.
capital surplus. A Jeep is 17.5. We can do it for cash. We would have to do a new capital ordinance to appropriate it, and that's it. We're done. It has no effect on this year's budget. The money's already there.
One quick comment.
That's our little emergency fund that we keep for just such a purpose. We don't even need bond
This
counsel. It
is-
doesn't involve debt. I can do the ordinance myself.
Only
Mr.
one-
Phillips, let me just say this. Mr. Phillips requested 2 vehicles. This was one of the ones, last year. This was one of the ones that was scheduled to be replaced. We only, council authorized 1, and this one died halfway through.
The
so-
only comment that I would like to make is that we purchase a vehicle that it can be utilized in many ways. For instance, the manager's vehicle that you said that, I forget what they are.
It's a
Little
tracker.
round thing, that
Chevy
little
tracker.
tracker thing. It's not useful. You can't put any kind of, if it needed to go to somewhere else, they couldn't put any equipment in the back of it per se.
Oh, they can in the Liberty, and the police use it in snowstorms.
But I think that we should buy a vehicle that could be multi-purpose.
Whether the construction
Are
code would
you,
do
are you
do
thinking,
that.
Cynthia, perhaps like
Not a-
pickup
not a-
trucks
not a
that we
dump
can make
truck.
for the
Not a
snow
Mason.
plow, connect the snow plow?
No,
to it?
we've,
No,
we've
no,
been
no.
down that road.
No.
It's- It's turned out, you see the big pickup trucks we have that they put plows on them, but that didn't work out, and for
How many
carrying
miles are
equipment.
on the manager's vehicle, just as an aside, the tracker?
I don't know, 15,000 maybe.
The only reason I observe it is that we no longer need a manager's vehicle.
Well, it's here not just for the manager. There are,
It's like carpool for the building. People going to
carpool.
seminars, me going to just meetings or.
right, you
delivering
take the
the
tracker. So it's at the building's disposal. I say the manager's vehicle because that's who it originally was assigned to.
But no matter what, we need one.
Well, for the inspector, yes.
The inspector, pickup trucks don't work well for the inspectors because it has open storage and they need closed storage. But the SUV type, the Jeep Liberties, the police department utilize them for four-wheel drive patrol during storms. So they are useful for other items. Of course, the inspector's not going to inspect during a snowstorm, so they lend well over letting the police
So,
patrol in them.
Point
So
volunteer?
it works very well.
I would like
So
your-
we've got the money, it doesn't impact the budget.
Right.
There's money available. Are you
Yeah.
okay with this, Cynthia?
I'm fine.
Yes.
Then let me put it on the agenda.
For the 21st, I'll have the ordinance
Okay.
prepared, because
Okay.
he really does need to get this thing
All right,
in
I'm going to
place.
briefly open the meeting to the public pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Anyone who'd like to be heard regarding any of the matters we've talked about at this time, please come
Well,
forward.
Ms. Solly, say something.
For the record, Ms. Solly is the one individual that comes out
Wave to the camera, Ms. Solly.
to the budget hearings. She was, I think, one of the only citizens that participated in last year's budget hearing, for the record.
Okay.
I think this is just an indication of how well we're doing in this township and how people trust us to do the right thing. That's why they're not coming out.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right, seeing that no one is going to be heard, I'm going to close the public portion. Some general house cleaning items we do need to talk about when we're going to get back together to do this again. I mean, there are other departments that we need to hear from,
Now,
so.
you're not going to do Saturdays anymore? You want to do nights?
The feeling I'm getting from people is that Saturdays might not be the best time to do it. Councilman, or Deputy Mayor Tabasco has expressed he's got Saturday commitments, both professional and personal. I know Mrs. Showmaker has said that she's not a real fan of the Saturdays.
Well, I'm sure none of us are, really. I mean,
Right.
Well, I'll make myself available. My only consensus is, if we're going to meet on Saturdays, we all need to, for instance, I'm running my business today. I'm not coaching, never mind, strike that. I'm not doing anything outside of, this is a commitment, and I think if we're going to make a commitment to be here, we all need to excuse everything else and make the commitment to
I
be here.
agree.
That's because
That's why we're here.
This is extremely important to the community, but we all need to be here, and that's
Well-
my only point.
I could do what I mentioned earlier in the meeting. I'll call around, my staff will call around and find out, we'll pick some dates, we'll ask if you're available on those dates, and that's how we'll back into the meeting dates. Or, probably March 4th is a Saturday. If you want to do another Saturday, that's the date I would pick.
I'll just I have prior family commitments on Wednesday night.
Okay.
So on a Wednesday night, it's hard for me to get around Wednesday night. Can't be leaving my boy at home alone.
I hear you.
House won't be there.
I mean, Thursdays are plausible, but I've got the planning board and so
Planning
does
board.
Mrs. Showmaker.
I
However,
teach
we
on
have
Thursday
alternates.
nights.
You can't do Thursdays.
I can't, I'm committed to teach for Rutgers on Thursday night.
Oh, this is going nowhere
Well, I'm just
fast.
trying to be professional.
Yeah, so we're back to Saturdays.
And there, see, therein lies the original problem, was that Thursdays we've got planning board, Tuesdays we've got council.
Monday is zoning board here.
Monday, I mean, we could always find another place to get together. We could do it in the courtroom if we
Well,
needed.
perhaps
but-
Mondays.
Well, if I know in advance, I could try to make arrangements on a Wednesday night, but I can't. 3 Wednesday nights in a row is not going to cut it for me.
Okay.
Okay?
So you may be able to do one as well.
Yes, I can make arrangements
All
for
right,
one, but
so maybe we can work around.
You'll
it.
work on
Yeah.
the details regarding that.
Pick up the house and move it.
it's hard because my wife's not home on Wednesday.
All right.
nights.
All right.
We're going
um,
to start calling around to you
Start calling
folks
around
Tuesday,
and
Wednesday.
getting the schedule. I do want to make sure that, as it relates to this report, that we all understand the sensitivity of this report. We don't want any department heads or employees to be alarmed about what's in it or what's not in it, and I think that we may have created some alarm in the mind of
Yeah.
Mrs. Zurich.
Oh, when I went outside before,
I understand.
You did.
And
Or Miss Deputy Mayor did.
And I think, I would ask Mr. Davis, as long as the council agrees, that you please give her every assurance.
I did.
That obviously this is a working draft, and any comments that were said were done accidentally, that we're not in a position to comment about the report, and that we do need to make sure it is on for executive discussion on the 21st around how we're going to distribute it, talk about it, et cetera, and I'd like to ask the council's permission to talk to Mr. Zernecki to get his input, so that when we talk about it on the 21st, I can report what his comments were, or maybe we can even have him pipe them in on the conference phone, or whatever it may be, so that we can integrate his comments.
Only one comment on it, and I have nothing against that, but I want to remind you that Dan Mason reminded each and every one of us that we should not engage in any workings, per se, as an employee.
Yeah.
If it's as a courtesy.
I think this is
just
more of a
so
courtesy
yes,
to
and I think
understand,
it's
and
a
we could talk
wonderful thing.
offline about it, but
But you know what I mean.
of course, there's no question. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Mr. Malave, have anything?
Can
No,
I make-
sir.
No, sir. Do you have comment?
Just one, so that this is fresh in our mind on, and if I cut one off, I didn't mean to cut one off on, when he was talking about personnel. But one, maybe I misconstrued. If you want to talk about overtime, the overtime in the police department, and that's kind of a little bit thing, but I want to go back to that. One of the things that we did last year is we cut all the overtime out in the budget. However, and maybe Mr. Filiatro, you can explain this. In this budget this year, there is built in $182,315 in overtime in the budget. And that doesn't include the police department that has $225,000, doesn't include 911, which is $28,000, and it doesn't include the Department of Public Works, which is $135,000. So when we say we cut out the overtime, that doesn't really mean that we've cut all the overtime out of the budget.
No.
Right. I mean, I just want that on the record.
No, you
Except
cut the
that-
police 30%, and the others, you gave a definitive dollar amount.
We did, but you're asking for an increase. I think as we look, to be fair,
Right.
as it relates to the '05 budget, so this does not get misconstrued.
That's what I want.
We eliminated overtime in every department except police
Public Works.
and the Department of Public Works. And as it related to the Department of Public Works, you had a discretionary amount of dollars that could be used. Am I right?
Yes, but I don't think it was,
It was my understanding that was not limited to public works.
Right.
I
It was a
apologize. We
discretionary
had-
amount to be divvied up.
We had
as
needed.
deemed
police,
appropriate.
which we needed, and we cut by 30%. We cannot control when it snows, as is going to be the
Snow
case
overtime was on-
at
yes.
5 o'clock in the morning. So that was DPW and only really for snow. And then you had a small amount to use at your discretion when there was an event and we needed people to work at 8 o'clock at night. So you had that discretionary amount. And it looks as if, see, the 911 needs to be in the police.
Oh,
There's
That's
there's
really one
another,
of the same.
there's
No,
another,
no,
one other
that's-
factor for last year
This
that's
num-
hard to control is, where this rule came down during the budget process, and people had already expended overtime. We could not cut that out.
Correct. We didn't introduce the budget until July, so there had been some money
There
in
was a
the,
good 6
Mayor, let
months
me
worth
just,
of
let me,
overtime
let me verbalize this, and you tell me if this is your recollection, the rest of the council as well. It was 30% cut to the police overtime. It was there was no cut to Public Works for snow emergencies, because, as you said, we have no control. All other, any other overtime, you gave a dollar figure, which was, in my recollection, it was $150,000 township-wide.
that's correct.
And that's what was left to be divvied up as appropriate. But out of that equation was the police OT and was the Department of Public Works snow. Was that-
Exactly my recollection.
Okay, so that's my.
So
and
they're looking for more money is what it
So,
comes down
so
to.
my point is, and because somewhere along I missed that 150,000 cap that we were allowed, that was, I'm going to call,
Oh, yeah.
your petty cash? I'm
No,
gonna call
it was
Well, I
petty-
certainly
overtime.
hope it wasn't.
Well, no, but in essence, and here I go saying, I'm going to use Juan's word, overtime is wasted time, and I thought we cut all overtime out. However, no, but in here, built in this budget, right here, besides leaving out police, leaving out 911, and leaving out
Snow.
Department of Public Works, there is built in this budget overtime of $182,315.
Which represents a $32,000 increase
Right.
in the discretionary fund
That's real simple to
that the
fix.
manager
Right.
asked.
You cut
No, no.
$32,000, period.
And look, we
End of
may
story.
decide that we don't want to have a $150,000 discretionary fund. I mean, I'm not saying we will or we won't, but it looks like you asked to get a $32,000 increase in that discretionary fund. We all took a tremendous amount of flack this year around leaf pickup. And the way they
Right.
fix the leaf pickup is not overtime, for sure. However, I mean, it was reported to me many times, well, if we had had a couple of extra dollars in
Right.
overtime,
That's my next point.
we may have been able to do that.
Well,
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and this is the reason.
So what,
No, my reason I'm
You're
making
saying
this
that wouldn't
point
have
is,
fixed the issue?
Jeffrey, and
It would have helped.
it would have helped.
Well, then the question arises from my side, and I think I differ a little bit on overtime and view than maybe you do in general, but if If another $15,000 in overtime and leave would have solved the problem, that certainly is cheaper than hiring another person.
Well, this is.
Agreed.
My point is this, I would like for us to, when we get to personnel, to look at the overtime versus exactly what departments are affected by it and what is going to be feasible, what is going to be prudent in a way of either hiring personnel or, I think we need to look at that very carefully this year.
I think you
Because I
need to
think
look
the
at the-
long-term ramification is to take away that overtime.
You're probably going to have to look at the report first
Correct.
before you look at the overtime.
The report.
The audit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is it possible to, I mean, we set aside $150,000 to be used as was required because of unforeseen things. Do you have an allocation from last year of how that 150 went? 10,000 went to this department and 30,000 went to this department. Can we get that? Well, that's in what they're proposing for this year. I'd like to see how it
Yeah, but
actually,
last year-
See, you know,
I have it from last year's budget. I can pull that out.
of how the 150 was divvied up by departments.
well, the thing has been difficult for me through the course of the year is our monthly statements have changed. Before you were able to see exactly where the overtime was in each department. But the new, I don't have it here, the new monthly statement that we get is, I hate it. I hate that monthly statement because I can't, before you could see exactly where
Is
was
that
what.
the new computer program?
That new computer program.
It's there.
I can't see it though. I never
There's
can
a
see.
salary wage, just an overtime, there's a part-time, it's all the same. The format's slightly different, but all the line items are there, the same as the other
It's
reports.
it's so much difficult than the other one. I hate that one, but I'm going to come and meet you with you on that. Because that's where you would see it, Joe, overall. And I have those where I, okay, Jeff.
Mr. Walsh, was going down the line, you have any comments?
I'm okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis, thank you, Mr. Filiatro, thank you, Ms. Minato. We appreciate your being here on a Saturday, and hopefully we can continue this process.
Well, this
You
beats
have
getting
something
out
else?
at 3, 4 in the afternoon on
As a
Saturday.
follow-up, we need to set up an appointment with Mr. Corman.
It's
So that
early.
we can get that.
Yeah,
straightened
well,
out.
Mrs. Showmaker brings up a good point. As it relates to the issue with tax foreclosures, I think it's clear we need to bring the tax foreclosure council in to have a meeting in closed session with the mayor and council to discuss what he's been doing. I mean, I'm of the opinion that I'm the first to pull out the whip and start giving somebody 50 lashings. I think we need to hear from their perspective, you know, have there been obstacles? What are the issues? Let's get it on the table. Let's be candid around, here's what needs to be done, and if you can't do it, then you're out of a job. Or we may look at it and say, you haven't done anything, you're out of a job. But we got to have the person in front of us, right?
Yeah, so try to do it like.
And how much of that is ours?
March.
I would like to see a breakdown of where that money goes, Jeffrey, if possible. I'll go to the tax office for that?
No, he said it's all ours.
It's all ours.
What do you mean by ours? You mean by sharing with county or
Yes.
school? No, we have to guarantee county and school 100% of the money every year. That's all our
That's
money.
ours.
So we already paid out all the money to county, state,
Exactly.
We didn't really
Exactly.
get that.
schools. We already paid it all out.
Yes, we pay out as it's due.
Scratch.
That money is due to the township.
So as the monies are being paid right now from February 1st as quarter's taxes, we're paying out all this money again on all these properties.
That's why we have a reserve for uncollected taxes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
there is a reserve for uncollected taxes, and we put a pad in there, you have to account for the money you don't get. And that's why we're at that 90,
The
whatever
whole
you said we
legal
were.
requirement of having a reserve at whatever figure is to account for the non-payers.
So every quarter now, it's costing us more money. We need to find out what is going on here that's taking so long, for sure.
That's why we've got to bring the person in.
I would
All
like,
right.
yeah.
I'll,
Jeff, are we going to get a new sheets? You're going to
Yes,
update
I
this?
will
Okay,
we'll
good.
I update these after every meeting, yes.
Great, okay.
I just had one final comment or question. When you had talked about, Mr. Filiatro, in the beginning, that we have replaced 5 million in surplus, we had used 5.1, we've replaced 5.3, so we're obviously on the upside of that. You also mentioned a number of 800, I wrote down $800,000
Right.
for some reason, and
888.
I'm looking back at my notes, and what is that?
Okay, in addition to the 5.1 that we used last year, there was 1.4 million that we used in deferred school tax.
Okay.
It was what we refer to as one-time revenue.
Yeah,
All right.
We don't have that.
We don't have that.
The school tax only increased 1.6 million, which gives us $800,000 in which we can defer as one-time revenue this year, not 1.4.
Okay, so we now have another 800 at our disposal under the deferral issue that we've used
Right.
because of the increase in the school tax.
So that relates to the 1.4 that we use. Our basic surplus, our operating surplus, we replace what we use in operating surplus. Naturally, the deferred school tax, you can only defer it once. So, yeah, instead of
That's right.
1.4 available this year, you would only have 800,000 available.
And maybe
if
we
that you
wouldn't even
choose to go
use
that
all
route.
800, so to speak. I mean, we'll look for your professional
Right.
recommendation. But certainly we have the difference between 5.3 and 5.1, right?
Okay. Well,
And
I've
up to
I'm
800.
factoring that in, yes.
We have up to 8.
So that-
You know,
so
but
there's
I haven't done the
you
rev-
factored
finished
that
the
into the
revenue, but
800?
when I factor in my revenue, and I know I haven't finished with
Yeah.
the revenue yet to talk to you about
Yeah.
it, but I am factoring in the 5.3.
So theoretically, there's 800,000 and 200,000, so there's potentially $1 million on the table.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Which is
Okay.
how many, what's in points?
Any other comments then?
I just, Jeffrey, what was the amount we replaced? It was 5.3?
5.3, yes.
Okay, I wrote down 3.5. I didn't hear you properly. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better now.
Okay, hearing there's no other comments, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mayor.
Second, Mayor?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.